Hi, I'm Charles with Handicap. The story begins as our protagonist Light says goodbye to his family. His goal is to become a great adventurer so his family can all live comfortably. Light arrives in the big city where he's instantly discriminated against for simply being human. He goes to the guild to register as an adventurer and he's given the F rank because it's his first time. The clerk wonders if he has a gift, so Light excitedly explains that he does, and it's called Unlimited Gotcha. The girl wants him to describe it since she has never heard of it before, but Light thinks that it would be easier to show her. Light pulls out his gotcha, and after pressing it, it creates a card. Light is very proud as he explains that he can summon whatever's on the card, but this card was just a useless and pointless bent fork. Light assures her that this one was a dud, so he does it again, but it just makes even more useless junk items like a rotten apple and moldy bread. Light says that it's usually not this bad, but she doesn't care and gives him his F rank card. Light is eager to go do his first job, so the clerk directs him to the bulletin board. Unfortunately, Light can't read, but in this world that's pretty common, as humans have a very low literacy rate. Luckily, the clerk helps him out and gives him a list of jobs. They're pretty low level, so they don't pay very well, but Light is a hard worker and he's eager to get to work. Light then goes on to do several jobs throughout the day, and he's exhausted. He's also a bit disappointed because an entire day's worth of work only earned him enough money for one night at the inn. That isn't too much of a problem for our hero, however, as Light says that he will be good if he can just pull something edible from his gotcha. Just then, some beast folk bump into him, and they blame Light for getting their clothes dirty. The thugs steal all his money, but say that they will use it to pay for the laundry bill. Light desperately tells them to give it back, as he won't be able to afford a night at the inn, but the beast folk don't care. One of them kicks Light while telling him to go sleep in a pigsty, and they leave. Not a single person around helps Light, and what's worse is that they even call him human trash. Just then, a girl helps him up, but Light sees that she's an elf, and he's startled. He apologizes desperately for touching her, but the girl assures Light that she won't hurt him. Light can't understand why an elf would be nice to a human like him, and the girl even hugs him. Onlookers are disgusted to see an elf even just touch a human, and Light is in utter shock. This elf girl got her knees dirty just to hug him, so he wonders if he's dreaming. The girl assures him that he's not, and the others in her group introduce themselves. They explain that they belong to the Concord of Tribes. It's the name of their party that represents all 9 races created by the goddess. The beast folk introduces himself as Garu, and the elf is Sasha. There's also Diablo the Demonkin, and Aboro the Oni folk. The dragon guy is a dragon newt, and his name is Drago. Then there's Nanau the dwarf, Sion the dark elf, and Santor the centaur. That makes 8 members, so the group reveals that all they need now is a human to complete the 9 races. Light is at a loss for words, so they explain that their goal as a group is a noble one. They want to put an end to racial discrimination and create a fair world for everyone. They explain that they want Light to join them, but Light can't believe what he's hearing. Their leader assures him that they're very serious about having him, so Light happily joins. A while later, Light finds himself being attacked by giant serpents, and he must be rescued by Drago. Another monster nearly sneaks up on him, but Sasha's there to strike it down. She warns Light to be more careful, and reminds him that they're in the largest and toughest dungeon in the world, called the Abyss. If anything hits him in here, he won't survive. Light apologizes, so Sasha explains that she's just worried about him, and she checks him to make sure he isn't injured. Light has been adventuring with the group for a while now, so the others tease Sasha for coddling him as always. They then embarrass her by saying that she can't help behaving that way around Light, because all her blood rushes to her cheeks when she is near him. Sasha tries to say that she just doesn't want their party's image ruined by losing a member, but the others aren't buying it. Light is feeling pretty useless right now, but Drago tells him not to worry. He says that he loves the tea that Light makes for them, so he's already doing enough. Light is relieved to hear this, and the group continues on their quest. They arrive at an area with only one exit, and Drago decides that this is the perfect spot. Light assumes that it's time for a break, so he happily tells everybody that he will get his famous tea ready for them all to drink. He says that it will only take a minute, but Drago rudely silences him and declares that Light is banished from the party. Light is speechless, so Drago repeats what he said. Light is still utterly confused, so Garo simply tells him that he's getting kicked out of the party. Everyone's demeanor has completely changed as they're all rude, and Garo tells him that he's useless to them now. Even Sasha calls him a stupid kid and says that he always annoyed her. They even question if his ineptitude is due to a lack of brain cells or if it's just a characteristic of humans. They all show their true colors without holding back and reveal that they hate human garbage like him. Light desperately hopes that they're pranking him, but they assure him that they didn't go all the way down into the abyss just for a joke. Light points out that they were all so nice to him before, but they reveal that it was all an act as they wanted him to join their party. That doesn't make sense at all, so Drago explains that this entire scheme was done because of Light's gift. This makes things even more confusing for Light because his unlimited gacha isn't special at all. Drago reveals that their superiors have been watching Light because of his strange gift, as they suspected that he could be something called a maestro. The only reason they invited him into the Concord of Tribes was so they could keep a close eye on him. Light reminds them that his unlimited gacha is a worthless gift because it only lets him summon a bunch of junk, but that doesn't matter to them. They know his gift is trash, and his stats are even worse. That is why the superiors have determined that Light can't be the maestro, which means that he's just dead weight now. The others wish that the higher-ups would have made that decision earlier, because they hated having to act like they liked him this entire time. Light doesn't know anything about these higher-ups or the maestro, but Drago says that he has heard enough. It won't matter anyway, as Drago declares that it's time to finish the job. Light has never been more horrified, as he realizes that he isn't just getting kicked from the party. Finishing the job means that they're going to end his life. It's time to get started, so Garo attacks him and cuts up his face. Light's entire body trembles as the dark reality of the situation sets in, and he runs for his life. It's no hope as the group tells him that there's nowhere to run. He wouldn't stand a chance against even just one monster from the abyss, so they suggest that he just let them take his life instead. Sasha doesn't even plan on giving him a chance to escape, and she fires an arrow right through his leg. Garo expresses just how much he loves hunting humans, and Cyan agrees by saying that their cries are like music to her ears. Garo continues the beating by kicking Light, but Drago says that's enough. Garo wants to have some more fun, but Sasha reminds him that they need to stick to the plan. Their cover story is going to be that a monster from the abyss eliminated Light, so they can't give him any marks that would contradict that. Garo's ready to do the honors, and he tells Light that he was an entertaining punching bag, so he will make the execution quick. Light desperately crawls away, and he wonders why things had to end up this way. Light's despair reaches its peak, so he cries out that he wants to live, and he just so happens to set off a teleportation trap. Drago urgently tells Garo not to let Light escape, but it's too late. Moments later, Light finds himself in a different part of the dungeon. He doesn't find any relief in this, however, as it doesn't change much. His body's severely injured, and he is sure that his life will end the second one of the abyss monsters finds him. Light can only think about his family, and he wonders what went wrong. The adventures were so nice to him, and he thought they were growing closer after spending so much time together. Of course, the reality is that they betrayed him in the worst way. Their friendship was all an act, and they actually took joy in tormenting him. They were all eager to watch him be eliminated, and they were prepared to do it with smiles on their faces. Light's sadness has quickly turned to rage, as he now hates every single person in that party, and he vows to end all their lives. This anger fuels him, and his thirst for vengeance refuses to let his life end here. He vows to make them pay, and he swears to rip all their guts out. Things take an even darker turn, however, as a monster appears, and Light is shocked to see that it's level 1000. That should be impossible, and it's the kind of monster only heard of in folktales. This makes Light realize the chilling reality that he was teleported to the deepest part of the abyss. There is no hope as the beast approaches him, but Light refuses to die before getting his revenge. All Light has to even try and fight back is his unlimited gacha, so he uses it. Light activates his unlimited gacha repeatedly, pulling card after card. Most are still junk like a rusty knife and a rotten apple, but Light refuses to give up. He must eliminate those that betrayed him at all costs and return to the family he loves. Luckily, Light's efforts pay off, and his gacha glows with incredible intensity like it never has before. The beast goes for an attack, but it's too late as Light's gacha has made a new card. A voice declares that it won't allow anything to hurt its master, and a girl emerges, completely destroying the level 1000 beast. This powerful girl clears away the mess she made, and surprisingly bows down to Light. She heals him, and instantly apologizes for it. She says that she couldn't bear seeing his handsome face and beautiful pearly skin scarred by such horrible wounds. Light is stunned to hear her talk this way about him, and even more surprised to realize that she healed all his wounds. The girl asks him to use his beautiful voice to speak his name, so Light introduces himself. The girl calls him Master Light and declares that she will live in service to him. It's the maid's code of honor, and she pledges her absolute loyalty to him. Light would like to know who she is after that speech, so she introduces herself as May. She is called the Ever-Seeking Maid, and she's level 9999. What's most surprising though, is that she's a super ultra rare card that came from Light's unlimited gacha. This girl just wants to keep talking about her loyalty, as she says that she will remain bound to Light even beyond the grave. Light needs more answers though, so he tries to explain that his unlimited gacha is basically worthless, and there's no way someone as incredible as her could have come from it. May explains that she has an appraisal ability that she can use to check Light's unlimited gacha, but she's a humble servant, and will only use it if she's given permission. Light lets her do it, and May is amazed by what she finds. She explains that Light's abilities are hidden under a heavy layer of something called conceal, and it's impossible for anyone who's not at her level to even see the details. May then reveals that Light's unlimited gacha is far from worthless. It can be rolled an infinite number of times, and the odds and rarities of the cards that it produces vary based on the surrounding mana density. The rarities starting from the top are extra, super ultra rare, triple S rare, double S rare, S rare, rare, normal, and error. Light is a bit confused about the mana part, so she explains that mana is something that flows everywhere throughout the world. However, its density is lowest up on the surface, meaning that the chances of a super ultra rare card like May appearing is close to zero. Down here in the dungeon, however, is a different story. They're in the deepest part of the dungeon right now, and there's tons of mana everywhere. This means that Light has much better odds of rolling a rare card while down here. Maya has no clue what happened before, so she admires Light's bravery for traveling all the way down to the bottom of the dungeon just to tap into the full potential of his unlimited gacha. Light isn't a liar though, so he reveals that he could never brave the abyss on his own. He explains that he was betrayed and his old party slashed him and shot him with arrows. Light cries as he's overwhelmed by emotions from the betrayal, but his rage comes back as well. He wants to make them all pay and vows not to rest until they get what's coming to them. Just then May embraces him and apologizes for him having to experience so much suffering. She tells him not to worry, however, because with her power at his disposal, bringing divine retribution upon his foes will be a simple matter. May then pleads for Light to give her the order to hunt down the deceitful heathens and bring their heads back on pikes for him. Light is hesitant for some reason, so he steps back. May assumes that it's because Light is too kind of a person, so she says that his enemies don't deserve mercy. Light responds by saying that isn't the problem. He put his faith in those people and got duped. Then he almost lost his life after being beaten to a pulp and sent to the bottom of the abyss. The root cause of everything is his weakness, so Light has decided that he needs to get stronger. Light acknowledges that it might be impossible for a human like him, but he wants to get revenge with his own hands. Light wonders if May thinks he's being delusional, but she says that she would never think that about him. Instead, she declares that his wish is her wish, and if personal vengeance is what he wants, then it's her job to help him. May says that she believes in his potential more than anything, so Light thanks his loyal servant. With that settled, Light once again rolls his unlimited gacha within the abyss, vowing to master his ability so that he can establish a kingdom that can pave his path to revenge. Fast forward 3 years, and we see that Light has built an entire empire in the deepest part of the abyss. He tells his legion of maids that they all did a good job today, and they all thank Master Light. Every single one of the girls is enamored by him, and they wonder if they used up all their luck in life just to be near him. One girl even takes it a step further, as she wishes that she could get a good whiff of his feet. They're getting far too out of control for May's liking, so she requests Light's permission to silence them. Light tells her that it's not so bad, because they just like him a lot, and he lets them be. We then get a look at just how vast Light's empire is, as it contains several shops and tons of people just living normal lives. Everyone greets Master Light as they all love him and offer to serve him their best meals. Some of them are running out of supplies, but Light is a benevolent leader, and he promises to inform the administration. May is on top of it as well, as she wants to take care of any issues immediately, so people don't get the wrong idea about how the empire is going. Light acknowledges that the population here has gotten much bigger the past 3 years, so he might have to revise the entire system. Light's next concern is the whereabouts of his other top warriors. They're all from level 9999 super ultra rare cards that he summoned, and May explains that they're all carrying out missions for him. The one named Ayuki has been scouting the upper perimeter of the abyss and making maps. The forests around the abyss are crawling with monsters, but Light is sure that it will be no problem for a genius tamer like Ayuki. The next warrior is Ellie, who has been working hard to develop new magic in line with Light's grand plan. Light has a lot of things going on at once, so he just hopes that Ellie doesn't get overwhelmed trying to keep up with his plan. Another warrior is named Nazuna, and she's out patrolling the castle grounds as usual. She is an expert at close-range combat, so she makes the perfect guard. May adds that Nazuna might not be the smartest person in the world, but she's definitely a blast to be around. Back in the castle, May is annoyed to find that a certain someone was waiting for Light. It's the level 7777 warrior named Jack, and May must remind him to address Master Light more formally. Light allows it though, as he sees Jack as an older brother figure. The two guys head outside to do some training, and Light says that the gloves are coming off today. Neither of them will be holding back, and Light starts the match with a quick attack right to Jack's gut. Jack is impressed as he was pushed back, but he points out that people don't call him the Iron-Blooded Barricade for nothing. Light's attack would have ended the life of anyone else, but Jack is a powerhouse. The two continue sparring, and we see that Nezuna is dutifully patrolling the castle. Nezuna tells the maids that she's carrying out an order from Master Light, and it's a super important job. All the maids flatter her by saying that they're glad to have someone like her protecting them, and Nezuna does her best to stay humble, as she is simply doing her job. Nezuna isn't sure about where she wants to patrol next, so the maids reveal that they have a request for her. They want her to check a certain area because it's off limits for them. This area turns out to be Light's bedroom, so May can only wonder why Nezuna is knocking on his door. Nezuna reveals that she wants to patrol inside, but May explains that Light's room is already very secure. Nezuna catches her off guard by reminding May that Light is out training and wondering what she's doing in his room. May explains that it's a maid's duty to always stay busy, but Nezuna just ignores her and makes her way inside. Nezuna is very observant, as it looks like someone was just rolling around on Light's bed. That isn't all, as someone seemed to be kicking their legs up while sniffing the pillows. May is a quick thinker though, and explains that this is just her unique bed-making style. She says it's a trade secret so Nezuna can't tell anyone, and Nezuna completely falls for it. She thinks it's an incredible skill May has, and she tells May that she really does live up to her reputation as Light's first summon. The other maids also sent Nezuna with a message, and it informs May that they're unhappy with her monopoly on Light's room. They demand that May give everyone the right to clean it, and they have started a petition to have May removed as head maid. They declare that her tyrannical rule will soon be over, and they tell her to get wrecked. Nezuna wonders if there's anything she can do to help, but May says that it's her responsibility to address the fairy maids personally. She thanks Nezuna for her work, and Nezuna is delighted when May gives her a tip. Nezuna instantly goes to spend her money at a shop where they just received a shipment of delicious snacks. Nezuna refuses to be swayed by mid-tier foods, as what her stomach really craves are milk and pancake sandwiches. Nezuna slams the snacks into her face and finds Ayuki in the castle. Ayuki was supposed to be scouting the forest around the abyss, so Nezuna wonders what she's doing. Ayuki speaks in meows, but Nezuna can't understand what she says the way Light does. The genius Nezuna takes a stab at trying to guess what she is saying, but it doesn't go well. She wonders if Ayuki needs help cutting trees down in the forest to make scouting easier, but that doesn't seem to be it. Nezuna guesses that Ayuki ran into a powerful monster that she couldn't defeat, but that isn't it either. Nezuna acknowledges that Ayuki was summoned before her, but she points out that she looks like the older and stronger one. Because of this, she tells Ayuki to not hesitate to depend on her if she ever needs to. Ayuki gets fed up, so she talks normally and reveals that she completed the mission without encountering any threats. She finished the part of the map that May wanted her to, and she just came back to deliver it. Back inside, Nezuna is pleased to see that her patrol has gone well, but she's disappointed after not seeing Light all day. After a quick check to make sure she's alone, Nezuna hops onto Light's throne. She thinks about how he always looks so cool sitting on it, and she wishes that he was here now. Just then, Nezuna is horrified after she breaks off a piece of Master Light's throne. She quickly slaps the wing back onto the angel and runs for her life. Back outside the castle, the two guys are still going at it, but they agree to call it a day. As they recover, Jack points out that Light has pretty much mastered how to use his body as a weapon. Light is incredibly humble though, and credits Jack for teaching him. Light has gotten extremely powerful from their training, so Jack says that only a select few can hold their own against him down here in the Abyss. The Abyss is home to the strongest beings on the planet, so that means that there are even less people that can hold their own against him on the surface. However, Jack says all this just to remind Light that there are still beings out there that are stronger than him. Light acknowledges his warning, as the surface world is full of unknowns, and he swears not to ever let his guard down. Light is determined to stay alive at all cost, as he must see his revenge through till the very end. Nearby, May addresses the other maids, but they act like they don't know why she wanted to meet with them. May recites the message they sent her line for line, including the get wrecked part, so the maids all apologize. They don't even know how to explain themselves, so they come up with an excuse. They say that they know how busy May is all the time, and they just wanted to help lighten her load. They have other excuses as well, but that doesn't explain why they told May to get wrecked at the end of their message. There is no good lie for that one, and what's worse is that they sent Nezuna to deliver the message instead of meeting her face to face. The girls' once unified team begins to fall apart as they blame each other, but May has had enough. She rejects their request to clean Light's room, and instead she orders them to clean the hallway that leads to the throne room. To make things even more tough on them, she orders them to do it entirely by hand. The hallway is insanely long, so the girls think it will be impossible, but May assures them that they will get it done. May will soon be going to the surface on a mission for Light, so she expects the girls to work diligently while she's gone. Elsewhere, Nizuna wishes that she could buy a sweet-looking weapon, and Ellie's surprised to find her here. She assumes that Nizuna is looking for candy, but Nizuna is just admiring the craftsmanship of some battle gloves. Nizuna thought that Ellie would be out doing construction work or performing an inspection as usual, but Ellie's actually taking a break. Everything is going so well that she had enough time on her hands to relax. Ellie thinks that Nizuna is a little slower in the head than usual, but Nizuna proves that she's not by reciting her times tables. Unfortunately, she's wrong right from the start, so Ellie mocks her, and they begin to argue. Ellie points out that Light has made her a fundamental part of his plans for revenge, unlike Nizuna and her tiny brain. Nizuna is quick to point out that her patrolling is very important, but Ellie says it's nothing compared to what she does. Ellie reveals that she just had tea with Light to discuss the progress of the plan, and she taunts Nizuna by saying the next time she will book a private room for them. Nizuna desperately wants to have tea with Light as well, but Ellie can't believe that was a part of her story that Nizuna was jealous of. Nizuna doesn't know what else there could be, so Ellie points out that there's something else that makes the fire of jealousy burn even more. Nizuna completely misses what she's trying to say and just assumes that Ellie's talking about magic. She thinks that Ellie's concerned about not being able to defend herself without magic someday, so she offers her help whenever Ellie needs it. Ellie concedes and says that she will, leaving Nizuna to happily walk away. She returns to patrolling, and Ellie can only think about how Nizuna is one of a kind. Back in the castle, the four mates complain about how they ended up in trouble when they had a valid complaint about their boss. She is the boss though, so they can't really do anything, as May is basically untouchable. They all wish that they could be cleaning Light's room right now, where they would all run their noses through his sheets. The girl that always takes it a step further makes it even crazier by saying that she wants to lick all his used utensils. The other girls call her a freak at first, but eventually they all admit that they would do the same. The girls can't help but think about how May was the first to be summoned. It took a whole nother 3 months before Ayuki was summoned as the second one, so the girls can only wonder what they did while they were all alone. Their minds go to crazy places as they think about how pure and oblivious Light can be sometimes. They were a young boy and girl alone in a deadly dungeon, and they can't believe how lucky May was. They're overwhelmed with jealousy, and they wish that they could turn their anger into a curse that they can put on May. They give it a shot, but are soon shocked when May appears. They all thought that she was on a mission, but she hasn't left yet. May explains that she heard them chanting "die" over and over again, and she demands an explanation. They all change their tune to act like they have always been loyal to her, but May isn't buying it. The girls finally admit that they were overwhelmed with jealousy, especially because May was able to spend so much time alone with Light. May points out that she's under no obligation to reveal anything, but she will, just to be nice to them. She reveals that during the 3 months prior to Ayuki being summoned, Light spent the entire time reading tons of books and practicing every kind of martial art. He was consumed by his desire to become stronger, and there was never time for them to do any of the vulgar things that the maids have been thinking about. May has been feeling like she was being too harsh on the girls and that her orders were unreasonable. She was thinking about taking it easy on them, but she realizes now that she was wrong. The girls don't seem to have learned anything, so May orders them to clean the throne room as well. That will take forever, but May points out that they should have the time since they were using so much of it to curse her. May gets very serious as she tells them to acknowledge her order, and the girls do. They get to work, but they don't think they'll finish anytime soon. Things then take a terrible turn as the wing Nizuna broke earlier falls off. In Nizuna's room, she's relieved to have another successful day of protecting the peace under her belt. Of course, she's still disappointed after not seeing Light all day, and she wishes that he would give her the order that she wants the most. She wants him to send her to the surface so she can destroy all the people that betrayed him. Nizuna calms down as she hopes that she can see Light the next day, and she falls asleep. The next morning, Light leaves the castle to find Ellie and Nizuna bickering as always. Nizuna is elated to see that her wish from last night came true as she gets to see Light again. Light can't help but treat Ayuki like a cat, but the other girls quickly get jealous. Suddenly, a beast, just like the one Light first encountered in the abyss, appears. Light still trembles with fear whenever he sees one of these hellhounds because of that traumatic day, but things are different now. Light has his fearsome warriors by his side, and they're ready for battle at a moment's notice. Nizuna's ditzy demeanor has completely changed, as she is furious to see that a mere training mutt has dared to challenge Light while she's around. Ellie's just as angry, as she plans to teach this beast a lesson. Ayuki's disgusted as well, as the Hellhound's presence alone is upsetting Light, so she vows to eliminate their entire species. Their strength is on full display, as they tell the beast to prepare for the full might of their level 9,999 power. Light calmly stops them, however, and explains that he's okay now. The girls quickly obey his order and stand down. Light surprisingly apologizes to the monster for spooking it, and he thinks about how the girls would definitely wipe out all the hellhounds in the entire world if he gave the order. Just then, Light reveals what he came to talk to them about. He just got word from May that her mission was a success, and it's finally time for them to put their plan into motion. Their prey has taken the bait, and they're ready to move on to step 2. The girls don't like how May was able to go ahead of them, but they're all excited to be moving forward with the plan. Light leads them and declares that it's time to serve his first dish of revenge that has been 3 years in the making. In the City of Wolves, we see one of Light's targets. It's Goru, and he walks around the city while people cheer him on as a hero, completely unaware of the vengeance that's coming for him. The villagers all love Garo so much, and one of them even wants him to date his sister. They fawn over him nonstop, and Garo isn't humble about it. He soaks up all the attention, and he tells all the villagers to make way for a megastar. A human nearby digs through some trash, and Garo hates the sight of him. He calls the guy street trash while tossing him to the ground, and he spits on the guy's face. Garo discriminates against humans just like everyone else, and he tells the guy to make sure that he never sees him again. At a bar, Garu's fanboys even admire the way he drinks alcohol. To acknowledge their good behavior, Garo allows them to order whatever food and drinks they want. He says that it won't be a problem for him because he just recently made a ton of cash. Garo's men enjoy a feast, and they tell Garo that he's an idol to low-born types like themselves. Garu's story is incredibly inspiring to them, as he was able to go from slum orphan all the way up to soon-to-be pack leader. It hasn't been set in stone yet, but Garo's pretty much the number 1 of the wolf tribe, and the other beast folk can't believe that they get to sit next to him. They wish more than anything to be just like him, but Garo says it's not easy. If they want to be anywhere close to him, then they will have to learn some clever ways to use the instinctual perception that the beast folk are born with. The guys all point out that Garu's is a cut above all the rest, and even the Dragonoots bow down to his skills. Garu then gives them a bit of advice as he explains that much of his success is thanks to his nose and the power of smell. It's very important to be able to sort out the decent jobs from the terrible ones by their scent. He was simply able to hit the big time job because he only ever accepted the real good ones. Garu's cronies have all watched him very closely, so they know all the jobs he has taken, and they wonder if everything he just said was true about the job he did 3 years ago. Garu remembers this as the Concord of Tribes job, but the fanboys point out that Garu can't give any details about it. All they know is that it was a covert operation that only Garu could pull off. Garo apologizes to his men as he confirms that the Federation demands secrecy when it comes to that job he did. One of the guys says sorry for asking so many questions, but Garo tells them all to just enjoy themselves. Deep down, Garo can't help but think about how the Concord of Tribes job was the easiest job he ever had. All he had to do was eliminate one pathetic human kid who was suspected of being a maestro. Thanks to that easy and pretty effortless job, Garo has become rich and famous. It has always bothered him that they were never able to find Light after he teleported, but Garo was certain that there was no way that Light could have survived anywhere in the abyss. There is something that bothers him though, and it has to do with the maestros. He doesn't really know who or what they are, but he does know that every country in the entire world is frantic to find them. Thinking about all this makes Garo shiver, so he realizes that trying to dig deeper into this subject would be risky. He decides to forget about it completely, as he doesn't want to ruin this perfect situation he has going on by poking the bear. Unfortunately for him, his time has come as a mysterious girl walks across the bar. It's May, and she apologizes for interrupting Garo's conversation. This all took place 1 month ago, and we see that now Garo and his men are escorting May through the abyss. May pretends to struggle after traveling through the abyss for a month straight, and Garo thinks about how it'll only be a little further before he can show his real intentions. A look back to when May arrived at the bar shows that she pretended to be someone that didn't know about what happened to Light. She was simply looking for Garu, who was said to have been a member of the Concord of Tribes. Garu's men were furious to see a pitiful human speaking to their leader, but Garo wanted to hear her out. May gave her name to Garu and explained that she lived in service to her master Light as his most loyal maid. Garo was shocked to hear her say Master Light, and May revealed that she had been searching for Light's whereabouts. Garo feared that she might know something about what happened, but he didn't believe it because no one outside of the Concord of Tribes knew. May then lied and said that Light was a key figure of noble descent. Garo couldn't believe this about Light because he just looked like some little twerp, and he accused May of trying to fool them. May kept up the act though, and simply told Garo that she couldn't give any specifics about Light's background. Garo started to doubt himself, but realized that the bigwigs behind the job would have dug up every possible detail about Light. They never mentioned anything about him being royalty, and neither did Light. There was a tiny chance though that Mei could be telling the truth, and if she was, then Garo thought that there could be a huge opportunity for him to make a ton of money. Garo said that he was finding it hard to believe, so Mei continued. She explained that she had been traveling all over the world in search of light, and it was only recently that she learned about him joining the Concord of Tribes. Unfortunately, this also came with news that he had perished in the abyss. Garo still didn't understand what this had to do with him, so Mei finally revealed that she wanted Garo to escort her. Mei managed to tear up as she explained that she wanted to check the place where Light was last seen alive for herself. Garo of course told her that going to the abyss carried a lot of risk, but Mei was prepared to pay him for his assistance. Mei then showed them a case filled with bars of gold that shocked all of Garo's men. It was pure gold, so Garo actually started to believe that Light was from some noble family. However, her paying him this much just to escort her was a bit strange, and Garo couldn't shake the feeling that it could be a trap. Garo's overconfidence would get the better of him, however, as he determined that even if it was a trap, one single weakling of a human wouldn't pose much of a threat to him. If she ever tried anything, Garo was sure that he could make short work of her. Because of this, Garo decided to make the deal with Mei. Garo was always a showman though, and he didn't just stop there. He pretended to not even care for the money, and said that his intentions were driven by something else. Garo lied through his teeth as he said that Light was one of his best friends, and even like a brother to him. Garo acted like the money meant nothing, and he said that he just owed it to Light to help Mei. He told Mei to rejoice, as he was the future leader of the wolf pack, and he would gather a pack of his most elite men just to help her. He declared that it would be no easy task, but him and his noble group would escort her through the danger-infested dungeon known as the Abyss. Back to the present, Garo thinks about how he wants to make sure that Mei reaches her goal without a single scratch. However, once they get there, this monster plans to do unimaginable things to her right on top of Light's grave. The evil courses through his veins as he thinks about it, and he can't wait to get to the spot. A while later, they arrive at the last place Light was seen. Garo lies as he says that a pack of monsters got the drop on them and cut Light up real bad. Then he was unfortunately caught in a teleport trap, and he was never seen again. Mei turns the acting up to really sell how saddened she is, and she begins to cry. Garo isn't done with his lying either, as he says that the attack came as a surprise to them, and the party just couldn't react in time to save Light. He apologizes to the grieving Mei, but he also signals for his men to get ready. They cut off the only escape route, and Garo takes a moment to think about how stupid humans are. Garo pours it on even more, as he says that despite him being the tough guy that he is, in the end he failed to keep Light safe. Garo says that he shares the pain that she feels, but Mei's demeanor completely changes. She has stopped crying completely, and she very seriously says that her heart bleeds for Light. Not because of his supposed passing, but because he was brought to this dismal and grimy dungeon, only to get betrayed by vile scum. Her stern voice becomes angrier with each word, as she recounts how Light was beaten within an inch of his life. The look of confusion emerges on Garu's face, as Mei wishes that she could have appeared at Light's side just a little earlier. She swears on everything good in this world that if she had been, then Light never would have suffered the pain of being kicked and shot with arrows. The shame she feels is unbearable, and she desperately wants to make it right. The chill of her vengeful voice strikes fear into Garu's heart, so his primal instincts force him back. Garo realizes that Mei knows every single detail about what happened that day, but that shouldn't be possible. The only people who really know what happened are the members of the Concord of Tribes, and a small handful of elite executives from each nation. Garo demands to know who she really is and who she works for, as he suspects that she was sent by another tribe to spy on him. Mei is insulted to hear him mistake her resolve for something so shallow, and she says that her allegiance belongs exclusively to her master Light. Garo calls her a rotten liar for tricking him, but this would prove to be a huge mistake. Mei stands with an intense hatred that can even be felt by Garo and all his men, and she declares that they can see who's truly rotten inside when Garo's guts are sprawled across the floor. Her terrifying gaze comes with an immense pressure that fills the entire room, and Garo begins to tremble. It takes everything Garo has to remain standing, and he can't even understand why he's so terrified of her. He thought that Mei was just a weak human, and someone they could just have their way with before disposing of her. It doesn't make any sense at all why she's able to freeze him in place and send chills running down his spine. Mei's stare only gets more intense as her endless hatred pours out of her, and Garo starts to realize that he won't survive what's coming. He determines that there's no hope left, but he's shocked when someone appears, instructing Mei to settle down. Mei obeys this order by suppressing her anger, and Garo's left even more confused. They are in the abyss, so he says that there's no way that some little brat of a human made it down here by himself. Garo is sure that this kid must have allies with him, so he tells his men to keep their eyes peeled for them. Just then, Garo finally starts to understand how wrong he has been about this entire situation. His mind still struggles to believe what his eyes are seeing, as it should be impossible, but he can't escape the terrifying reality as Light finally reveals himself. Garo never once thought that Light could still be alive, and Light very calmly greets his old teammate. With an unassuming smile on his face, Light casually explains that he's here to get payback, with 3 years worth of interest. Garo regains his composure and chuckles after really thinking about the situation. Light was just a puny level 15 human, and it's laughable to think that someone as weak as him could want payback against a level 150 boss like Garo. Even just the thought of it makes Garo laugh, and he couldn't be more thankful that humans are so stupid. Garo continues to laugh away, but Light is not amused in the slightest. Garo admits to not knowing how Light survived, but declares that Light made a huge mistake by showing his face to him. This is because Garo is certain that when he really ends Light's life this time and brings his body back, he's guaranteed to become the king of the beast folk. Light is extremely disappointed by Garo's ignorance, as he wonders why Garo isn't curious to hear about how he survived or even what his connection is to Mei. The normal reaction would be to demand some answers, so Garo admits that he can't really tell how strong Mei is. Garo's confidence is restored, however, as he says that it doesn't matter because two humans can never pose any kind of a threat to a pack of beast folk like him and his men. Garo himself is level 150, and each of his men are over level 130. Garo declares that Light and Mei don't stand a chance because they're ordinary humans, and Light's only power is a worthless gift that can only summon trash. After some thought, Garo has concluded that Light just got lucky 3 years ago and only survived because he was rescued by Mei. Light doesn't deny that last fact, as he's very appreciative of Mei helping him, but there's more to the story. Garo isn't interested in listening though, so he tells Light to prepare for his real demise, and he sends his men to attack him. They rush in to tear Light to shreds, but Mei removes their heads before they can even get near him. The guys have never seen anyone move so fast, and Mei sternly announces that anyone who dares threaten Light will pay by losing their heads. Mei immediately softens up when Light praises her for a job well done, and he instructs her to go watch the exit. Mei is as loyal as ever, as she swears upon the maid's code that she won't let anyone escape, and she rushes off. Garo's men begin to panic as they couldn't even see her attack, but Garo assures them that she just used some kind of cheap trick. It had to have been a sneak attack in his eyes, because there's no way that an inferior being like a human could beat them. Light is disappointed to hear that Garo still hasn't changed a tiny bit, even after all these years, as he still thinks that humans are inferior. Light wonders if he has considered that the beast folk could be the inferior ones, but Garo's just insulted. Humans are just feeble losers with tiny pools of mana, so Garo tells Light to feast his eyes on what real power looks like, and he displays his level. Light of course is not impressed, as he reminds everyone that levels typically achieved by each race differ greatly, and the discrimination that came from it is what gave rise to widespread disdain for humans. Garo is happy that the world is this way, and he declares that beast folk are just more capable than humans, which is why they're also higher up on the food chain. Light is quick to point out that 2 of Garo's more capable men are now headless because of a human, but Garo accuses Mei of using some kind of magic item to do it. Garo's tired of seeing Light be so confident, and he becomes infuriated by the way Light looks at him. Garo and all his men attack Light at the same time, but Light lands an attack on every single one of them before they can touch him. That one single attack from Light leaves Garo gasping for air, and Light wonders if the wolf is already done. His casual attitude only infuriates Garo more, and Garo calls Light human trash. He still thinks that Light is a loser, and he refuses to be looked down upon by someone weaker than him. Garo angrily creates some distance between them and declares that he's going to wipe Light's confident look off his face while making him soil his pants. To do this, Garo pulls a small glowing orb from his pocket and uses it to summon a Magibeast Fenrir. The summoning causes the air to shift in the room, and Light is impressed when Garo's Fenrir finally appears. Garo confidently announces that this beast is his ace in the hole, as it's level 500. Garo's men are amazed to see that their leader had such a crazy secret weapon, and they're relieved as they will now win the battle. Garo tells his men to stand back and watch, and he warns Light that he's about to feel the full force of his insanely high-level beast. Unfortunately for him, Light only lets out a sigh as he's disappointed to see that Garo's secret weapon is pitifully weak. Level 500 is nothing, and Garo's confidence in it is embarrassing to him. Garo has a good laugh as he assumes that Light just lost his mind out of fear. He gives our hero a chance to beg for his life, just like he did 3 years ago, and instructs him to drop down on his knees while begging for Lord Garu to spare him. Light has a different idea, however, as he wants to toy with Garu so he can really savor his revenge. Light tells Garo to attack him any way he wants, and he promises not to move a single inch from where he's standing. Garo's anger and frustration continue to grow as he can't seem to break Light's confidence. He refuses to believe that Light can back up his talk, so he announces that he will have his Fenrir wipe Light out of existence. He orders his beast to use its blazing howl attack, so it fires a massive beam at our hero. The attack causes major damage to the surrounding area, and Garo explains that the blazing howl attack is the entire mana pool of a level 500 monster focused in one blast. He says that it's enough to turn a human into a pile of ashes, so he's absolutely horrified when he sees that Light is still standing without a scratch anywhere. Light stood in the exact same spot just like he said he would, so Garo can't comprehend what just happened. Light keeps his casual attitude as he mocks Garo for coming up with such a fancy name for an attack that did nothing but kick up a bunch of dust. Light says that he should feel silly, and Garo's mouth just widens even more as what he just saw should have been impossible. Garo's men can't understand how he survived the attack either, and they wonder if Garo has any answers. Garo doesn't, because the only answer is that Light is somehow powerful enough to completely smother an attack from a level 500 monster. Light can tell that Garo has nothing else to offer in this fight, so he decides that it's his turn now. He starts by saying that Garo shouldn't call his little pet a Fenrir because it gives people the wrong idea. Fenrir are legendary mythical creatures with otherworldly powers, so Light declares that he will show him what a real one looks like. Light then shocks every single one of these guys as he pulls out a level 9000 ultra rare card. He releases the primal god Wolf Fenrir, and Garo stands frozen by shock as the beast is summoned. Garo's level 500 beast was one of the highest level monsters he had ever seen, so Light's level 9000 Fenrir blows his mind. Light orders his beast to eliminate Garu's, so it sends out its lightest attack. It blows a small gust of air out of its mouth, and this completely freezes Garo's monster. The attack also shatters it into pieces, so Garo and his men tremble as the dark reality of their situation has finally set in. The wrath of Light's revenge is closing in on them, and Garo can't believe that Light has a monster strong enough to wipe out his Fenrir in the blink of an eye. Light says that he's correct, but also assures the terrified Garo that he could have defeated the level 500 beast himself if he wanted to. It's now Light's turn to tell Garo to feast his eyes as Light finally reveals his own level. He's level 9999, and Garo's body now trembles uncontrollably as the unshakable confidence he once had turns to pure terror. Garo was sure that humans maxed out at level 100, so his mind desperately searches for answers, and he can only conclude that Light is some kind of imposter. This makes sense to him because Light looks exactly the same as he did 3 years ago. He has the same face and body, but any normal human would have grown by now. As Garo's mind spirals into chaos, Light explains that he wears the bracelet of youth that stops him from aging. Light is so driven by his revenge that he forces his body to stay exactly the same, so it can remind him of all the pain, anger, and despair that he felt that day. He will never forget it, and he also wants it to stay fresh in his mind at all times. Garo comes to terms with the fact that this is the real Light, but it never really mattered in the first place. Garo now knows that it was he that never stood a chance because Light is an absolute monstrosity. Garo has never faced his own mortality before, but realizing that his life is about to end is absolutely terrifying. There is nothing left for him to turn to now, so Garo completely breaks down and begs for forgiveness. He cries out that he had no choice but to follow orders from the Federation and says that he never actually meant to hurt Light. Garo's cowardly nature finally reveals itself to everyone as he says that even today wasn't his fault because he was just going along with the scheme that his men came up with. Of course, his men point out that it was all his idea, so Garo just apologizes to Light for breaking his trust. He desperately searches for something to save his pitiful life, so he reminds Light of all the good times they had. Garo says that they were once friends, and he pleads for Light to spare him. The groveling Garo feels a bit of hope as Light explains that there's actually some information that he wants from him. Light wants to know everything that Garo knows about the Maestros, but unfortunately Garo doesn't know much. The group was only instructed to go search for one, but Light wants to know why the government is desperate to find them. Of course, Garo has no idea, so Light demands to know why the Concord of Tribes still tried to end his life, even after finding out that he wasn't a Maestro. Garo doesn't know that either, and he just admits to not knowing a single thing. Light wonders if any of his men know anything, and they all say that they do. Unfortunately for them, May has an ability that can tell when people are lying, so she slices them all to pieces. She declares that anyone that attempts to deceive her master will be sent to the afterlife, so she tells Garo to choose his words wisely. Garo squeals from the terror of seeing all his men wiped out in an instant, and Light reveals that he has only one more question. Light has shown Garo what he and May are capable of, so he wants Garo's opinion. If they were to wage war against the entire world, does Garo think that they could win? Garo has always been proud of his perception and instincts, so Light wonders what they're telling him about this war Light wants to start. Light reminds him that May has the eye of truth that can see through everything, so he warns Garo not to lie. Garo fears that his answer will cost him his life, but his life is in danger regardless, so he soils himself. With no ego left to fuel his arrogance, Garo chooses his words much more carefully. He says that considering the great amount of power that Light possesses, he is sure that the battle will go in Light's favor right from the start. However, no matter how high Light's level is, he's still just one person. The various nations of the world have spent many years stockpiling weapons, armor, and special items. Their armies are vast, and their combined power is immeasurable. Garo says that once they all rally against Light, even he will have a hard time winning. Light is surprisingly satisfied with this answer, as that was exactly what he assumed anyway. There's only so much a single person can do on the battlefield, so it only makes sense. Light reveals that he actually has one more question, but it can wait until after they teleport. Light then uses a teleport card to take them back to his castle. Garo has no clue where they are, but he's more shocked than he has ever been in his entire life when he sees what Light has in store. Light has brought him to his throne room, where a massive army stretches endlessly before him, awaiting Light's command. Light takes one single step, and the entire army kneels before their master. Garo is shocked by the sheer magnitude of Light's supremacy, as the weight of Light's true power finally crushes whatever remained of his sanity. Light takes a seat, and he tells everyone to stand so they can display their stats. His seemingly endless army of unique warriors obey his order without a second thought, and a sea of numbers fill the room. Each of Light's warriors stand out with a unique presence, their levels ranging in the high thousands. A collection of beings so distinct in appearance that each one of them look more like legends than soldiers. Even the weakest among them stand above level 1000, while some of the strongest are full-fledged mythical beasts, reaching levels as high as 9000. At the very top are Light's elite warriors that all max out at level 9999. Light explains to Garo that these are the forces that he has massed over the last 3 years. In that moment, Garo's expression embodies pure despair, the realization that he's standing before a power far beyond anything his mind could ever comprehend. Light was prepared to ask him again about his chances of winning a war against the entire world, but Garo's face has already told him what he wanted to know. Light congratulates Garo, for he has earned the reward of languishing in pain and despair, far worse than anything he could imagine. Garo's fear has drained all the life out of his entire body, as he realizes that he and the others are to blame for giving birth to the godforsaken monstrosity that is Light. Light could end the world at the drop of a hat, and everyone that's not on his side is doomed. Garo's mind has crumbled to pieces after witnessing what unfathomable power really looks like, and all he can do is call Light the Lord of Destruction. Garo can hardly speak at this point, as he struggles to force the words out of his mouth, and he just manages to ask Light if he's trying to become a god. Light admits to liking the sound of that, especially since it aligns with his goals. Someone is hiding the truth from him, and he doesn't know what their intentions are. If they're doing it for righteous reasons, then Light will take the path to being an altruistic god. However, if they're doing it for nefarious reasons, then Light declares that he will have to go down the path of a satanic monarch. The power that allows him to do all this comes from his one ability. With it, Light can either grant blessings and fortune, or drown everything in despair. The world has a chance to prove which it deserves by simply revealing the truth that it hides. Light's plan for the future has already been set in motion, so he announces to his army that it's time to begin their march from the abyss to the surface, out of the darkness and into the light. A while later, Light finally decides to return home to show his family how successful he has become. He's horrified, however, when he arrives to find that his home has been completely destroyed. Terror overruns his entire body as he realizes that his hometown was decimated by an unknown force during his years of being away. 6 months after this, Light is only able to find a tiny bit of relief because the bodies of his family have yet to be found. They might still be alive, and it's the last hope he can cling to. Light's warrior named Gold wants him to find a place to stay, so another warrior named Nemo must remind him to be nicer since Light is grieving. The two begin to argue because Gold wants to stay at a hotel, but the ninja girl would stay with Light anywhere. Their dispute quickly turns into a juvenile argument about who's more loyal to Light, and who would endure the worst environment for their master. Light says that they can worry about lodging later, because for now they need to get information about the war they're about to start. Their goal now is to learn the military strength of each nation in the world. Light can't be sure, but he believes that the destruction of his hometown has something to do with the accusation of him being a maestro. Light is then filled with rage, as he can only wonder why maestros are such a big deal that it could lead to so much bloodshed. He declares that if the world turns out to be filled with crooked evil, then he will have no choice but to burn everything to ashes. The power that flows through him when he's at his angriest strikes fear in his allies, and they suggest that he try to temper himself when he's in public. Light plans to get more aggressive moving forward, so he puts a mask on to hide his identity. He tells the others not to call him Light while on the surface, because up here he wants to be called Dark. The new name will keep the Conqueror tribes from learning about him, and he decides to register Dark as an adventurer and raise his rank by doing quests. Getting information is the most important thing right now, and having a higher rank means that he will be able to ask questions to higher level people. On their way, they encounter a family that's being robbed. Gold blows their cover by announcing himself, but the bandits prove to be easy for them to defeat. The family gives them a ride to Draga City, and they explain that the dungeons there are perfect for someone looking to level up. The quality of the dungeon there is extremely high, and it attracts a lot of adventurers. Light told them that there are newbie adventurers, but after they part ways, the girl wonders if it's normal for newbies to be as strong as them. This is Gold and Nemu's first time on the surface, so they're amazed by all the weapon and armor shops. It's because it's a city for adventurers, and the Dwarf Kingdom specializes in blacksmithing. It is said that the majority of aspiring adventurers here are human, and that is proven true, as the guild is filled with humans. They seem to be terrified of other races, which makes it clear that humans are treated poorly here, just like everywhere else. A while later, Nemu is furious after her Master Dark is given the rank F. Unfortunately, it's a rule for everyone to start that way, but Nemu refuses to accept that. She says that her Master Dark is the most powerful human being in all of history, and declares that his rank should be SEX for Super Extra. The humble Light accepts the F rank, however, and he registers successfully. The guy he saved earlier is named Colonel, and he turns out to be the owner of the inn. Light rents out the entire top floor for a month, and he asks that no one step foot inside while they stay there. Colonel refuses to accept payment after Light just saved his life, but Light insists. With that settled, Light uses some detection cards to make sure that there are no items that might spy on them in their rooms. Nemu has been wondering about something this entire time, so she points out that Light might get injured with this huge goal of his. He could very easily stay at his castle and just order his warriors to carry out his orders. Light becomes furious at the thought of him not carrying out his revenge with his own hands, and Nemu very quickly realizes her mistake. Light's overwhelming thirst for revenge causes the entire building to shake, and Nemu apologizes profusely. Gold admires how Light wants to handle this himself, and Light acknowledges that Nemu was just looking out for his safety. Light apologizes for letting his anger get the best of him, but Nemu shows her remorse by kissing his foot. Many leaders in this world force their followers to do this, but Light hates it. It's too embarrassing in his eyes, but Gold says that he's kind of into it. The next day, Light notices how lively the shops are, which makes it clear that the dungeon must be as good as advertised. The people are amazed by Gold's armor, but they also notice Light's mask, and Light wonders if it makes him stick out too much. There's a huge line to get into the dungeon, but Gold notices that there are no elves. This makes sense though, because the elves and dwarves are currently feuding over who has claim to the dungeon. Light gets uncomfortable by how close Nemu is to him, but she says that this is her way of protecting him. Just then, they notice 3 mysterious people in hoods as they cut the line. However, the person at the front carries himself with incredible sharpness, despite the giant and obviously heavy weapon that he carries. Some adventurers are too terrified to say anything, but Light isn't, and he reminds the strangers that cutting in line is against the rules. The guy is furious as he can't believe that Light doesn't know him, but Light doesn't care, and stands by what he said. His warriors join in with some insults, as Nemu wonders if these guys are too dumb to know how lines work, and this makes the guy really angry. He refuses to be spoken to that way by some disgusting humans, but his servant reminds him to restrain himself so they don't cause a scene. This guy is obviously very strong, as his servant reminds him that using his sword would be going way overboard. They decide to just go to the back of the line, so all the adventurers around tell Light how amazing that was. The other group apologizes for not saying anything out of fear of starting a fight, and they're grateful for Light being there. They can't help but wonder if Gold's armor is made of real gold, but Nemu hits them with some reality, as she says that it's fake. Gold is too malleable to be used in armor, so the adventurers apologize for such a silly question. Gold uses this color as more of a symbol to express his dedication to being a knight. The adventurers can tell that this is their first time at the dungeon because they didn't come fully prepared. The first floors are incredibly large, so many people camp inside for days, but Light's group doesn't have any camping equipment. Light realizes that they have become accustomed to carrying everything in his item box, so Nemu wonders if they should carry some fake luggage to make them look normal. Soon it's their turn to enter the dungeon, and Light is amazed by how unique dungeons are. They are very mysterious, and learning their true purpose would require a deep analysis of the dungeon core. It would probably be impossible to learn everything about them, and Light assured that Ellie wouldn't even be able to do it. Dungeons are filled with mana that gets stronger the deeper down they go, and that power gives birth to a variety of monsters and traps. The possibilities are endless, and dungeons can even be like their own world. This dungeon's incredibly beautiful, and Gold doesn't sense anyone nearby, so he says that Light can use some of his cards. Light uses some cards that conceal their presence and allows them to fly, so they can easily make their way through the dungeon. Light never ceases to amaze Nemo with his abilities, because he also had a card called Clairvoyance that shows him the fastest route to the next floor. All of his abilities make things too easy and boring sometimes, but it saves them a bunch of time. Meanwhile, the guy from earlier is still angry about being talked down to, and he unleashes his anger by using his giant sword to take out some orcs. He says that he's the youngest and most elite warrior among the Elven Kingdom's White Knights, and he calls himself a genius. His name is Kaido, and he declares that he's a legendary hero who single-handedly took the life of a maestro. His servant named Yanak reminds him that their goal is to defeat the trolls in the lower floors, but this infuriates Kaido. He explains that these orcs insulted him by challenging him, and no one is allowed to do that because he's the literal descendant of a maestro. He blames his low level for people thinking they can challenge him, but Yanak doesn't think that level 1500 is low. He's well beyond the typical max level for elves, but Kaido's rage and ego don't let him accept this. Kaido declares that he will become stronger so he can bring punishment to those that disrespect him. Yanak feels the same way, as they had both been exiled. Yanak was cast out because of his banned research, but he promises to put that research to good use for Kaido. Deep down, Kaido knows that he can't trust Yanak, so he plans to dispose of him after he helps him level up. Elsewhere, Light and his group finish up eliminating some giant trolls. They only need to provide the guild proof that they made it down to the 3rd floor so he can rank up. So they collect some gems from the beasts and call it a day. On their way back, they notice that the group from earlier is in battle. These guys work together to take out some goblins, and they're surprised when Light's group appears out of nowhere. Light actually saved them from being attacked by a dangerous snake, and he reminds them that while they did a good job in battle, they can never let their guard down. They all show their appreciation, but our heroes become very serious as they realize that something is coming. Some terrifying wolves appear out of the woods, but they shouldn't be in this area. Monsters this strong should only be deep in the forest, so the group of kids think they should run. Light explains that the wolves are not the real problem, and the group is stunned when the wolves run right past them. The kids are terrified as the real danger rapidly approaches, and it turns out to be a giant mantis monster. The kids are horrified because this monster was said to have been exterminated 10 years ago. Their leader tells Light that they just need help throwing it off balance so they can run away, but Light has a different idea. He points out that they just want to run away anyway, so Light asks their group if his team could just hunt the beast themselves. Light's warriors don't fear this monster at all, and they simply measure it up. It seems to be around level 500, and they determine that it won't even be a challenge. The kids are sure that fighting this thing will be just like throwing their lives away, but Light assures them that they will be fine. Nemo declares that it's time to squash the bug, but Gold is the first to take action. He launches a barrage of attacks, but he's disappointed when the mantis is able to take it all without even receiving a scratch. Light wants to test it next, so he uses a fire arrow card, but the monster just fires it back at them. The young group is terrified as they fear that their lives will come to an end, so their leader instructs their mage to back up Light's team. She seems horrified at first, but it turns out that she's actually just in awe of Light. He was able to cast a combat class spell with no incantation, and she can't understand why the others aren't freaking out after seeing that. The leader says that there's no time to be impressed because they have to help Light's team, but Gold just laughs at this. He tells the youngsters to just watch and learn because he's going to show them how a knight wields their weapon on the battlefield. Gold is sure that they think just like everyone else does. Typically, a shield is used for defense and a sword is used for offense. Gold, however, says that this is not always the case. He declares that all it takes is a well-timed counter to turn a shield into a mighty weapon, and he uses his shield to shatter the monster's powerful claw. His next lesson is to use a sword when you have the enemy on the ropes. His next attack cuts the monster's leg off, and Gold explains that battles are all about creativity and skill. The kids realize that this guy wasn't just all talk, and Light announces that it's his turn. He uses his fire arrow once more, but this time he alters its path so the mantis can't block it. Light does this with even more arrows, and he rains down fire upon the beast. The mage girl is absolutely losing her mind after seeing this, because Light is somehow able to control 30 arrows at one time. The arrows still remain in its body, so Light assembles them to break off the beast's other arm. Light declares that it's time to end this battle, but the mantis runs for its pitiful life. Light credits it for being smart enough to do so, but it's too late. The monster picked a fight with the wrong people, so Light uses his Firewall card to create a massive wall of fire. The beast has no way to escape, and the mage girl still can't believe her eyes because Light is now casting tactical class spells with no incantation. Her friends have never seen her like this before, but she can't help herself because the stuff Light is doing is crazy. The mantis flies in the air in the hopes of getting away, but Nemo's right on its tail. She tells the beast to be grateful for being able to keep her master's attention for so long, but she slices the monster into pieces. Gold mocks her for the attack because while it was very powerful, she also made a mess of all the useful parts of the beast. Nemo quickly realizes her mistake because now they won't be able to sell any of it. The three of them act very casually in the kids' eyes, but their power is undeniable. They made quick work of a legendary monster, so the kids can only wonder who they are. After a while, one of these kids announces that they hit the jackpot. They were looting the mantis, so the kid found the magic gem, and Gold tells everyone that they're lucky that Nemo didn't slice it into a million pieces. Light is relieved because this magic gem will surely help him rank up at the guild, but a kid just wants to know if there's some kind of famous party. He wonders if they're B rank, A rank, or even S rank, and he is shocked when Light reveals that they're all actually F ranks. The mage girl makes herself useful by using a water spell and telling the others that they can use it to wash their hands. After cleaning up, Light thanks them for helping him get his hands clean, but the kids are much more grateful for Light's team saving their lives. In return, the young adventurers offer to share a camp for the night, but Light doesn't want to burden them. The leader points out that the sun will be setting soon, and this place gets far more dangerous at night. Besides that, he points out that his little sister is itching to talk with Light about magic. Light takes them up on the offer, so that night they all enjoy a delicious meal. The mage girl is delighted to hear that Light's parents are both mages because it helps explain why Light is so talented. The girl's name is Maya, and Light compliments her on her magic as well. Maya of course points out that she can't cast voiceless spells like Light can, so they are not on the same level. She becomes furious when her big brother doesn't know how impressive that is, so she gives him a little lesson. Maya starts by saying that impressive hardly begins to even describe how amazing what Light did is. She then goes on to explain that there are 3 classes of spells in magic. Combat class spells such as Fire Arrow and Ice Sword are designed for use against a single target. Tactical class spells such as Firewall are designed to affect a much wider area. The final one is strategical class spells, which are ones powerful enough to have a global impact, like tsunamis, earthquakes, and meteorites. This is different from the other categories because they take a whole group of mages compiling mana and reciting an incantation to pull off. For Dragonoots, Elves, Dark Elves, and Demon King, casting advanced spells is easy. It should be impossible for humans to do, but Light is somehow able to cast one without even saying an incantation. It's completely unheard of, and Maya can't emphasize enough just how legendary that is. The leader doesn't understand too much about all the magic stuff, but what he can tell is that Light seems to be a good person. Besides that, he tells his sister that her magic is pretty good too, because she was able to get a referral to the Magecraft Academy. The academy is in a place called Duchy, which is a nation that was mutually created by all the races. The Magecraft Academy there is the most prestigious one in the world, so Gold is sure that Maya will soon be impressing herself. Unfortunately, Elio explains that they lost their parents a while ago, so she never actually got to go to the academy. That is why they formed their party with their oldest friends to make enough money to get by. They have done well so far, so Elio's new goal is to make enough money adventuring to send Maya to the academy. Their friends also share this goal, and Maya couldn't be happier to have such good people around her. Their closeness reminds Light of his little sister, and Light assures them that they will achieve their goal. Elio wonders why Light is adventuring, but of course he can't tell them the whole truth. Our heroes tell them that Light's parents lost their lives in a house fire, and it also left Light with horrible burns on its face. This is why he wears a mask at all times, and why he's on a journey to find a potion that can heal him. As for his warriors, they say that they're repaying a debt that they owed to Light's parents. That's a pretty tragic story, but one of the kids just wants to know if Gold and Nemu are secretly dating. This is not the case, however, as Gold says that Nemu can never match his golden shine, and Nemu declares that her heart belongs to Light. Elsewhere, Kaido finishes eliminating the giant trolls that he was searching for. Yanak compliments him on a job well done, but Kaido is furious. He explains that his Grandius sword is a legendary weapon of prestige, not some butcher's knife for carving up low-level trash monsters. Kaido hates having to do this kind of grunt work, but Yanak reminds him that collecting these samples is vital for his research. Kaido wants to keep getting stronger, and Yanak's research is trying to find a way to surpass the growth limits imposed on each race. They have eliminated several monsters up to this point, but Yanok declares that the next step is to gather the primary material for his experiment, and that is humans. This part actually excites Kaido, and he declares that it's time for the hunt to begin. The next day, the guild receptionist is incredibly grateful because Light has brought the guild another big haul of gems. They are super valuable, and everyone in the guild has been talking about Light's party. Nemu points out again that Light deserves to be SEX rank, but Light is just ready to get paid. The receptionist wants to make sure that her most valuable adventurer is happy, so she offers to give them a meal while they wait. She even offers to make it a full course meal, but Light is not interested. Afterwards, Light's warriors discuss how that receptionist has completely changed her attitude after realizing how valuable Light is. Nemu wants to teach everyone a lesson for doubting him, but Light reminds her that they're keeping the violence to a minimum, at least for now. As they walk, Light notices that everyone in town is talking about them, and they have even given his party the name Black Motley. Some guys want to ask Light some questions, but Nemo's very protective of him. The guys introduce themselves as Sullivan and Gilbert, and they explain that they heard about the Mantis battle. They have also heard about them reaching floor 5 of the dungeon, but that part is unbelievable to Gilbert. He points out that they have been trying to get that far for years, so there's no way that this new F-rank party could have gotten there so fast. Nemu takes offense to them doubting Light, but Sullivan explains that they, and many other people, are actually rooting for them. Light doesn't really understand why, so Sullivan points out that someone has to prove that humans can compete with the other races. Even better, they hope that the Black Motley can even surpass the other races to really humble them. After they leave though, Light overhears a group of other races talking about how humans say the dumbest things. They believe that humans will never be able to surpass them, and they are certain that the battle against the Mantis was all a lie. The part they believe the least is that a human was able to cast a tactical class spell with no incantation. Gold is disappointed to see just how little respect they get from the other races, so he determines that they just have to show their power by getting results. Our heroes enter the dungeon again, and on their way back to the 5th floor, they run into the other group. Maya has a gift for Dark, and she explains that it's something her grandmother taught her to make before she passed away. Maya really wanted to do something special, so she reveals that it's an ointment for burns. It won't get rid of the scarring, but she hopes that it can at least help him with the pain a little. She fears that he might not want it, but he's actually just shocked by her kindness, and he accepts the gift. Elio reveals that she spent several days trying to think of the perfect gift, but this just embarrasses his little sister. Light has been thinking of something himself, and he just now decides that she deserves it. Light returns the favor, but Maya doesn't feel right, accepting something so nice. Light insists, however, as he explains that her gift to him really touched his heart. Everyone compliments his great taste, and Maya promises to cherish it for the rest of her life. That night, however, Nemu wonders if it was really okay for Light to give Maya that gift. It turns out that it was no ordinary gift, because the bracelet Light gave her was actually a double super rare item. It's called the Wish Bracelet, and Nemo doesn't think that something so valuable should have been given away in exchange for some homemade ointment. Light casually says that he thought it was a good deal, and Gold agrees with him. That Wish Bracelet is an item that can make small miracles happen if one wishes strongly enough for it, and it's pretty much priceless. Gold can tell that Light picked it out especially for Maya, so he tells Light that it was very considerate of him. Nemo's convinced, so Gold reminds her to be less materialistic. When they reach the 5th floor, Light is pleased to see that there's no one else here. Gold agrees that attention is the last thing they need right now, but Nemo points out that Gold is the one that loves attention. Light leaves them in charge of finding the Yetis they need to defeat, and he once again shows the infinite possibilities of his powers. He uses another card, and this one teleports him from the dungeon all the way back to his castle. His other warriors have been eagerly awaiting his return, so they all greet Master Light. Light explains Operation Adventure is going well, and it has been a very nice change of pace. He's also in a great mood because he made some friends, and they demonstrated that there's still some good in this world. As for Operation Revenge, the girls explain that they're very close to setting everything up, and it will only require a little more time before everything is in place. Light compliments Ellie for having everything under control, and he determines that he probably didn't even need to come back. As for Mei, Light instructs her to continue managing everything in the Abyss. Ayuki will keep scouting the ancient forest, and Izuna's eager to hear what his orders are for her. Light thinks about how she's a bad fit when it comes to carefully laid out plans, so he just tells her to keep everyone safe while he's away. He says that they can never know when a super powerful bad guy will show up, so Nizuna promises to not let anyone get hurt. Ellie can't believe that Nizuna is really okay with such a simple order, but Nizuna points out that she can't do her real job until Ellie finishes up her prep work. Ellie assures her that she will get it done soon because Light deserves the best, and Light is pleased to hear this. His next target is Sasha, and he can't wait to enjoy the look on her face when he comes for revenge. Light just knows that she will be miserable, and that day can't come soon enough. Back in the dungeon, we see that Gilbert and Sullivan are on the 3rd floor. They discuss the Black Motley party because that group is still a big mystery. According to rumors, the guy in the black mask was able to cast a tactical class spell with no incantation when he defeated the Mantis. Gilbert refuses to believe that and says that even if it is true, then the mask guy has to either be a legendary knight or some reincarnated hero from the past. Sullivan really hopes that this is the case because the humans need a champion that can topple the society that is run by human-hating discriminators. Sullivan goes to take a leak, but when he returns he is horrified to see that his group was massacred. It was all Kaido's doing, and he explains how disgusted he is by these humans. Sullivan's horrified by the gruesome scene, but he reminds himself to keep his guard up because this guy's obviously dangerous. Something is off because Sullivan thinks about how they're in the wetlands right now. Water is everywhere, so his group should have noticed splashing sounds as the attacker approached. This obviously isn't what happened, however, because the bodies of his teammates don't show any signs of them putting up a fight. Sullivan thinks about how he's sure that this guy used some kind of spell, and we see that Kaido is furious as always. He points out that even the lowliest of worms would react to their friends being stomped on, and he wants to see a reaction out of Sullivan. Sullivan just continues to think, however, as he determines that even just one elf will be too much for him to handle. His only goal right now is to escape somehow, so he can report this to the Adventurers Guild. Kaido just keeps disrespecting Gilbert's body as he wants to antagonize Sullivan, but Sullivan just apologizes to his old friend. He uses a smokescreen to get away, and he thinks about how most combat spells are completely worthless if the attacker can't see their opponent. Besides that, this entire floor is like Sullivan's backyard because he has been coming here for years. He wants to make sure that Kaido gets punished for what he has done, but he's shocked when he gets attacked by something. He wonders if it was magic, but that should be impossible. It was impossible to see anything in the smoke, and Sullivan is sure that he was hit by something physical. Just then, he sees that Kaido was floating above it all, and Sullivan can't believe that he will lose because of such a cheap trick. Yanok arrives to knock him out, and he calls Sullivan a piece of trash for trying to run away. Yanok then expresses how disappointed he is because he told Kaido that he needed living humans for his experiment. Kaido eliminated them all except for one, but Kaido thinks that should be enough. Unfortunately, it's not, as Yanok points out that successful experiments are only built from repeated failures. Kaido agrees to be more careful from now on, but declares if any trash human does anything to upset him, then he won't hold back. Yanok, on the other hand, believes that humans actually have value, but only as lab animals for his experiments. He declares that they will make humans understand the roles vermin like them play in the grand scheme of this world. A while later, our heroes turn in more gems to the guild, and Nemu once again demands for her Master Dark to be promoted. The receptionist panics as she points out that they just made an exception for him the other day when he was promoted straight to D rank from F rank, but Nemu doesn't think it's enough. The receptionist tries to explain that they use a system to make a decision like this, but Nemu declares that her master's almighty greatness cannot be measured by any system. She still thinks that he deserves the SCX rank, but Gold wishes that she would see how bad that makes Light sound. Unfortunately, there's nothing that can be done because not enough time has passed since Light registered. The receptionist, however, does say that things could be different if he achieved another big feat like defeating the Mantis, and this gives Light an idea. Light hears news about someone ending the lives of adventurers, and he determines that this could be the big feat that ranks him up even more. Light's warriors agree, but unfortunately there's no information to go on because the suspect is still unidentified. Gold wonders why he doesn't just pull a card that can track down the suspect, but Light reminds him that the cards he gets from the gacha are randomized. Nemu suggests that they call him back up from the abyss, but Gold isn't sure how helpful that will be. Light points out that this adventurer killer has only been targeting humans, so they can't just let them go unchecked. Just then, Light senses something, and a portal opens in their room. Light is then absolutely horrified as Maya's unconscious body falls out of the portal, and he can tell just how badly she's injured. Maya's not able to respond to him when he calls out to her, and the bracelet he gave her breaks off her wrist. When Maya wakes up, she's barely able to speak, but she has something urgent to warn Light about. Light heals her, but she loses consciousness again, so Light apologizes as he must pry into her memories to find what's going on. Light uses a hypnosis card and sees a memory of Maya's group learning about the adventurer killer. They were told that all the victims have been humans, and the culprit is not a monster. The suspect is casting multiple spells with different attributes, and no monster could do that. Maya was sure that their group wouldn't stand a chance against the suspect, and they were also warned to leave. Elio decided that their party would leave, but they didn't have much time before nightfall. It soon became very dark, and Elio instructed the others to keep pushing so they could get as far away as possible. Elio noticed how exhausted everyone was because they were walking all day and weren't even halfway to getting to safety. It was already dark and everyone was completely tired, but Elio knew that they couldn't risk camping for the night. Unfortunately, it wouldn't matter either way as they were approached by a mysterious trio. They posed themselves as concerned adventurers who warned the group that it was dangerous to be out at night. The youngsters remembered this trio from before, and Myra was worried that they hadn't heard about the news. Elio told the strangers that someone has been taking the lives of adventurers, and he told the trio that they should consider leaving the dungeon like they were. Kaido kept the act up by pretending to notice that the number of adventurers had suddenly dropped off, and he thanked the young group for warning them. Ginra was glad to see that these line cutters weren't so bad after all, but that wasn't the end of the conversation. The trio dropped the act, and Kaido determined that they should have put more effort into covering up their crimes. Kaido had no clue that news of their actions would spread so quickly, and Yanak realized that the guild was more competent than he gave it credit for. The overly trusting Elio had no clue why they were talking this way, and Yanak said that this kind of stupidity was to be expected of humans. He couldn't believe that they had to spell the truth out for them, and Kaido said that humans are always dumb as dirt. Kaido then made the truth very clear as he declared that Elio's group would be the last batch of bugs that he would squash for the day. Elio quickly realized that these guys are the suspects, so he didn't hesitate for even a second before telling Maya to run away. Deep down, Elio knew that they weren't going to survive, so he told Maya that the others would fight the suspects so they could buy her time to escape. Elio charged in, knowing that he couldn't give the suspects time to act, but this infuriated Kaido. He knew that this group was outclassed and outgunned, so them thinking that they could buy time against him was insulting. He took his anger out on Elio, and the others watched in terror as their leader was cut open. Maya cried out to her brother, and the other two guys rushed in to avenge their best friend. Unfortunately, they only met the same fate, and Maya couldn't believe what her eyes were seeing. It was a normal day just a few hours ago, but her entire world was now falling apart. Warren was the only one with enough life to speak, so he used his last moments to tell Maya to get on her feet. Warren knew that she was frozen by the horrific sight of seeing all her friends get massacred, so he knew that he had to snap her out of it. Warren then used his last bit of life to loudly scream for her to run away. The light-hearted Ginra didn't even know that his old friend could even shout like that, and he showed that he too had some life left. Ginra stood by his comrade, and the two friends bravely charged at the attackers together. Maya called out to them knowing that they wouldn't stand a chance, but the boys were determined to protect her. Kaido only took this as an insult, however, and he hated that more than anything. Yanak knew just how angry Kaido gets after being insulted by humans, so he tried to tell Kaido to take it easy, as his next attack was clearly going to be life-ending. Kaido was blinded by his rage, however, so he unleashed the gruesome attack, and he ended their lives. Maya screamed as her body trembled from witnessing this, but Yanak was just disappointed. He reminded Kaido that he can't use humans for his experiment unless they are alive, but Kaido reminded him that he would end the lives of anyone that made things difficult for him. Kaido pointed out that he did leave one alive, and Yanak was pleased because human mages are especially valuable to his research. The others would have been good for his research as well, however, so Kaido promised to be more careful moving forward. Kaido then showed an even more sinister side of himself as he told Maya what he had planned for her. He told her that she should be honored because he's a legendary hero, but Maya was horrified by this evil man. Suddenly, a voice called out Maya's name. It was Elio, and he used what life he had left to tell Maya to run away. Yanak was impressed to see him holding on to life so fiercely, so he insists that Kaido keep him alive. He could tell that Elio would be a prime specimen for his experiment, so Kaido begrudgingly agreed. Elio's body was covered in blood, and he knew that his life was pretty much already over. None of that mattered, however, as all he wanted was to make sure that Maya survived. He told her that she needed to get away no matter what, but he could tell that she was still frozen with terror. Elio managed to reach her by smiling, and he told his sister to run for it. The two began to cry, as they knew that this could be the last time they ever saw each other, and Elio told his sister to run as fast as she could so she could live a long life. Maya finally gathered the courage to run away, but Yanak instructed Kaido to capture her. Elio did his best to stop him, but he was just swatted away. Yanak reminded Kaido that he needs the boy alive, but Kaido pointed out that humans are harder to capture than they are to eliminate. In this moment, Elio remembered what Gold taught him. He thought about how Gold said that battles are about creativity and skill. Kaido realized that if he used his head to make moves, then he might be able to throw his opponent off. Elio reminded himself about how Gold used a shield for offense and a sword for defense. The rage in Elio built inside himself as he repeated what Gold said over and over again. When his anger reached its peak, Elio threw his sword at Kaido. Kaido of course dodged this, but this also distracted him from Elio's real intentions. Elio used his shield as a weapon, and he managed to land a powerful strike on Kaido. Kaido was at a complete loss for words, and Elio could only laugh at the situation. There was still no chance for him to survive, so he at least took pleasure in being able to trick Kaido. Elio called Kaido a loser, as he told him to suck on his attack, and this made Kaido absolutely lose his mind. Kaido had never been angrier, and he completely lost control. He called Elio a human piece of garbage, and he used a special attack from his weapon to pierce Elio's body. Elio struggled to breathe as his body was impaled, and Kaido declared that no one gets away with striking his face. He planned to make Elio suffer a pain worse than death, but Yanak stopped him. He reminded Kaido that things could get really complicated if the people on the outside learned about what they were doing, so he told him to just go after the girl. Maya desperately ran to tell someone about what happened, but she was stopped by Kaido. He explained that he can create multiple blades and control them at will because of his weapon. It's the Elven Kingdom's Phantasm class weapon, and it's a legendary sword known as Grandius. Maya could only watch while Kaido demonstrated his elite control of this weapon as he created several blades and used them as steps. Maya refused to give up, however, because she didn't want to waste the precious time that her brother and her friends bought for her. She instructed her magic power to aid her in the form of a blade, and she used several ice swords to attack Kaido. Kaido quickly destroyed them, but he was annoyed to see that it was only a distraction. Maya desperately wanted to find Dark, as she knew that he would be able to help her, but Kaido caught up to her again. Kaido told her to give up and just listen to the orders of a legendary hero, but Maya refused. In her anger, she told Kaido that he was no legendary hero at all. She declared that heroes are kind and strong, and they are more like the hero known as Dark. Maya called Kaido a bully that only picks on the weak, and this really triggered something inside of him. Kaido was called a bully his entire life, and he was mocked for kissing up to his superiors. He was kicked out of the White Knights, and everyone said that he deserved it. Maya called him a spineless loser, and the tormented Kaido lost control. He sent every blade in his command straight at Maya, but Maya knew that she had to survive no matter what. Everyone sacrificed their lives for her, so she had to tell Dark what happened at all costs. This triggered the wish bracelet, and she was teleported straight to Light. Light's warriors can tell that something's terribly wrong, as Light hasn't said a single word. Consumed by anger, Light can only grip the bracelet, and he tells the others that it's time to go. Back in the dungeon, Yanak doesn't want to waste such a good specimen, so he heals Elio. When Kaido returns, Yanak fears that he ended the girl's life because he didn't bring her back, but Kaido just ignores him. Kaido thought that Maya might have run back to save her brother, and Yanak realizes that Kaido lost track of her. Yanak can't believe that a former member of the White Knights was bested by a child, so Kaido explains that she just vanished into thin air. He assumes that she used some kind of teleportation item, but Yanak points out that a human would never have something so valuable. The bottom line is that she got away, and Yanak points out how that means they're in deep trouble. If she reaches a guild and spills their secret, then word will definitely spread to the Elven Kingdom. Soon enough, the elves will figure out where the stolen Grandius has gone, and the White Knights will come for them. Rumors say that the captain of the White Knights is beyond level 3000, and all those in his command are in the 2000s. They are terrifying with that alone, but each of them also has weapons on par with Grandius. Kaido can't believe that this is happening to him, but Yanak tries to calm him down. As long as he completes his research, then Kaido will be able to surpass his level limit, and all their problems will be solved. Kaido's relieved, and Yanak declares that they just need to find a place for him to continue his research. Unfortunately for them, Light arrives to tell them that they won't be going anywhere. Kaido is shocked because no one can sneak up on a level 1500 like him, so he can only wonder how Light appeared without giving himself away. Light's tone becomes somber for a moment as he puts Warren and Gimra to rest. Nemu explains that Elio still has some signs of life left, and his wounds have been patched up. Yanak is completely stunned because he only took his eyes off Elio for a second, but this group was somehow able to take him. Light heals Elio, and he can only wonder why someone would do such evil things. He can't understand why these kids had to suffer such injustice, because all they ever did was stand firm in a world filled with awful discrimination. They were kind to everyone, and simply did their best to make an honest living while supporting Maya's dreams for the future. Light says that they didn't deserve such a horrific fate, but he knows that it's too late to change anything now. Under different circumstances, Light is sure that they could have all grown up to become great friends, but that world was torn apart. Light struggles to contain his anger, and he vows to make the criminals pay for what they did. Yanak tries to lie his way out of this, as he points out that he was the one that healed the boy. Light doesn't entertain their lies, however, as he explains that Maya told him everything. He knows that these guys don't want to get found out, so he tells them to be relieved because he hasn't told the guild a single thing. Kaido laughs like an absolute maniac because he can't believe how lucky he just got. They were so close to having their secret found out, but now all he has to do is eliminate this group in front of him, along with the girl, to get away scot-free. Kaido's confidence goes through the roof as he points out that everything always goes his way. This is true in his mind because he's a legendary hero, and this just confirms that he's blessed by the gods. Light can only laugh at this guy calling himself a hero, and he reveals the real reason that he didn't tell the guild. Light plans on ending their lives in the most vicious way possible, and he just didn't want anyone to know how he did it. He vows to make them suffer the way Maya and the others did, and he promises that they will beg for the sweet relief of death. Light then swears upon his name that when all is said and done, he will tear the life from them with his own hands. Light tells his warriors to stay out of this fight, and they do just as their master says. Light has a cold look on his face, but this upsets Kaido. He refuses to be sneered at by a lowly human, and he promises that he will cut Light into tiny pieces like he has done to every human that dared to fight him before. He rushes in to attack Light, but Light easily stops him with his staff. Yunak can't believe that Kaido's attack was forwarded so easily, and Light wonders if that's really all Kaido has. Kaido can't believe that Light is still looking at him with those eyes, so he unleashes a barrage of attacks. He curses humans over and over again as he attacks, but Yunak can't understand what's happening. He says that it's ridiculous because no human in this world can stand against the legendary Grandius. Light just keeps disproving him, however, as he easily blocks all of Kaido's attacks. Gold calls Kaido a mad dog, and the warriors are disappointed because Kaido can't do anything but swing his sword in rage. Light is just as disappointed as he calls Kaido pathetic, and he crushes Kaido's insides with his first counterattack. Kaido can barely breathe after just one strike, and Light wishes that he would try to fight better. He tells Kaido that he will have to at least try harder, or else he might end Kaido's life by accident. Kaido refuses to let a human talk down to him, so he uses his sword's special ability. He calls forth an incredible number of blades, and he tells Light to tremble and weep before his power. Kaido then instructs Light to bear witness, for this is the power of the legendary Grandius. Kaido begins to rain these blades down upon Light, and Light is actually surprised by how useful this attack is. Light sets fire to the forest to give himself some cover, and he dodges all the attacks. Nemu explains that every single one of Kaido's blades are enchanted with magic, and they even have different attributes. It's actually very impressive, but the warriors are sure that it won't be a problem for Light. Light continues to dodge the endless flurry of blades, and he admits that the attack does have some power. Unfortunately for Kaido, Light declares that it won't be nearly enough. Kaido tries to attack him directly, but Light proves to be impossible to land a strike on. Of course, this makes Yunak lose his mind even more, because Kaido summoned his sword to sneak behind Light, but Light still somehow blocked it. There has never been a human in all of history this strong, so Yunak can't accept what he's watching. This shouldn't be possible, and he can't understand how a human can go toe-to-toe with an elf wielding a Phantasma-class weapon. Kaido is sure that Light must be cheating somehow, and he accuses him of dressing like a mage while really being a warrior. He hates that Light thinks he can trick people by dressing this way, and it just makes him hate humans even more. Light explains that it's not a trick because he really is a mage, but Kaido doesn't believe him. No mage could possibly ever fight on equal level with him, but this statement just makes Gold pity him. Light is one of a kind, so it's understandable why Kaido would be so confused. Light releases the ice sword attack, and Kaido can't believe that he was able to summon so many ice blades without an incantation. Kaido makes one last desperate attempt to strike Light, but it's no use as Light fends off his blades with blades of his own. Yunak's mouth nearly drops to the floor as Light completely counters Kaido's attack. This entire scene is unreal, as Yunak points out that Light is using Ice Sword to pick off the clones of Grandius one by one. That requires magic power far beyond an elven mage, and it shouldn't be possible for a human. Kaido lets out a smile when he tricks Light into blocking an attack, but Light is no fool. He stops Kaido's sneak attack as well, and Yunak really begins to lose hope. Not a single attack is reaching Light, and Light is even able to summon enough ice blades to use them as a barrier. Light wonders if Kaido is done throwing a tantrum, but Kaido still can't comprehend what's happening. He assumes that this has to be some kind of joke, because a legendary hero like himself could never be bested by a human brat. Kaido then shocks everyone when he declares that a maestro was given the Grandius sword from the heavens above, and it should be unbeatable. Light is stunned when he hears the word maestro, and he demands to know why Kaido knows that word. Kaido is happy to oblige, and he laughs because the answer to that question should be obvious. He declares that he knows about maestros because he was born with the blood of a maestro inside of him. This is why he's called a sub-maestro, and Light is stunned because he has never heard the term before. Kaido proudly declares that he's vastly superior to human trash in every way, right down to their genetics. Light is very intrigued by what a sub-maestro could be, so he informs his warriors that there has been a change of plans. Light declares that they will take these two elves down to the abyss so he can drain the information they have straight from their brains. Light's companions prepare to fight Yanak, but Yanak points out that he's a mere scientist. He doesn't partake in battles, but he does have something up his sleeve. With the snap of his fingers, Yanak has his underlings transform into giant and grotesque monsters. These things are hideous, and Yanak tells everyone to behold the fruits of his labor. He created him through his research, and there are human-monster hybrids. One was spliced with a special type of rock lizard that lives on the Dark Elf Islands. The other one was spliced with a fresh troll that they harvested in this dungeon. Our heroes are absolutely horrified as they recognize one of the faces because it used to be Sullivan. These experiments are terribly inhumane, but this is Yanak's pride and joy. His research has revealed that splicing different species into these hybrid forms is the key to surpassing their natural growth limits. Unfortunately, Yanak explains that they require multiple humans to become stable, and that's really the only problem. His goal is to create a powerhouse that's beyond compare, which means that he needs many more humans to use as specimens. Yanak believes that he's doing the most noble deed and that he's being guided by the heavens themselves. Light has had enough of this guy's arrogance, so he tells him to shut his mouth. Yanak assumes that his genius is just too much for a puny human brain to understand, but that isn't Light's issue. Light is disgusted by what Yanak has done, so he tells his warriors to put the poor people out of their misery. After they're done with the hybrids, Light tells them to leave Yanak alive because he has a lot of questions for the mad scientist. Yanak is disappointed that they can't see his vision, so he's left with no other choice. He will just have to educate them in a way that their feeble minds can understand, and that's with a hands-on demonstration. This is actually just the monsters attacking, so our heroes obey Light's orders. They tell the poor souls to rest in peace, and they instantly eliminate the forsaken beasts. Nemu says that the scientist is next, but Yanak points out that it's way too early for them to celebrate. Our heroes are then horrified as the hybrids re-emerge. Yanak laughs like the mad scientist he is, and he declares that they will have to do far more damage if they want to put an end to his monsters. Their battle intensifies, and Light quickly learns that he can't worry about them. Kaido reminds him that they're in a battle of their own, and Light must quickly dodge all his blades. Nemu does her best to strike the beast, but she doesn't want to cause too much pain, and she begs for it to just go down already. She concludes that fighting the hybrids will be tricky, so Gold wonders where her usual confidence has gone. Nemu wonders the same about him, but Gold reveals that he's just getting warmed up. He pushes the other beast back for a moment, but the two monsters are still completely unharmed. Yanak continues to boast about how there's nothing anyone can do against his creations. He tells our heroes to just admit defeat, and he promises to be extra gentle when he experiments with their bodies. Nemu's done with the disgusting creep, and Gold declares that he doesn't want to make the poor souls suffer any longer than they have to. Nemu agrees with him, so they decide to finally lay them to rest. The two of them unleash a couple of powerful attacks, but Yanak only laughs at their puny minds. He reminds them that his hybrids are unstoppable, and they can't be eliminated no matter what the heroes do. His laughing quickly comes to an end, however, as he's forced to watch his abominations turn to ash. Yanak's mind begins to crumble as he can't understand why they aren't regenerating, and he says that this is inconceivable. Nemu doesn't want to hear another word out of this guy, so she kicks him in the jewels and knocks him out. As for Light, he has taken control of his battle against Kaido. Kaido was the one that insisted on fighting, so Light can only wonder why he's chickening out now. Light is looking down on him the same way Elio did, so Kaido becomes infuriated. He promises to pulverize Light into nothingness, and he prepares his most powerful attack. This thing lights the entire night sky, and Kaido is sure that Light must be terrified of him now. This is the ultimate form of his grandiose blade, so he tells Light to bow down before all his might. Kaido is sure that Light has no hope of surviving, so he just tells Light to accept the end of his life. Light just barely manages to dodge the first strike from Grandious's ultimate form, and Light realizes what's going on. Kaido has enchanted the blade with multiple types of magic, and this has increased its power dramatically. Kaido calls Light a coward as he demands for him to stop running, and he unleashes a barrage of attacks with this new power. Light masterfully dodges the wave of slashes from Kaido's blade, and he analyzes the attack carefully. The size and speed of the blade increases, while it stretches and curves all over the place. It's less of a sword now, and more of a whip empowered with magic. The others acknowledge that this is a pretty fancy technique, but it doesn't even come close to what Light is capable of. Kaido clearly thinks that he has the upper hand, but Nemo points out that the idiot has no clue what he's up against. Light has seen enough of the attack, and while it is a bit interesting, he concludes that it's all flash and no substance. Kaido loses his mind after hearing this, and declares that Light should stop dodging it if it's really that weak. He is sure that Light would eat his own words if he could just land one of his strikes, but he is shocked by what Light does next. Light completely stops dodging, and instructs Kaido to go right ahead and land a direct hit. Light promises not to dodge it, and he tells Kaido to bring it on. Kaido has never been so disrespected in his entire life, so he absolutely loses his mind to rage. Now that Light has stopped moving, Kaido decides that he doesn't have to worry about missing, and he can go all out. He puts every last bit of his power into this next attack, and declares that Light will regret not taking him seriously. He calls Light a stupid human, and unleashes the most powerful attack he could ever possibly conjure up. Kaido knows for a fact that his attack landed, so he relishes in his victory. It doesn't last for more than a second, however, as Light reveals that he's completely unharmed. He tells Kaido to repeat what he said would happen if he was struck by his attack, but Kaido is at a loss for words. Light is an absolute boss, as he tells Kaido that he can keep trying if he wants, and he promises to stay exactly where he is. Kaido has completely lost his mind now, so he continues to flail his sword around, striking Light over and over again. He can't understand why Light is still alive, and he points out that his Grandius sword is the Holy Sword of Legend. This sight is only becoming more pitiful, so Light decides to put an end to it. He cancels the Grandius sword's ultimate form, and the others point out that the one-sided fight is finally over. Light finishes it off with a couple of direct strikes of his own, and Kaido begins to realize just how hopeless this fight was from the very beginning. Light declares that he still has many questions for the elf, so he won't end his life. That time will only come when Kaido has suffered enough to beg for death himself. Kaido has no choice but to accept Light's incredible power, so he begs for forgiveness as he doesn't want his life to end. He explains that he's from the Elven Kingdom, and he was once next in line to become captain of the White Knights. He promises to tell Light everything he wants to know, and even offers to give Light the Grandius sword. He begs for mercy, but Light is actually surprised to see him give up so easily. Kaido did a lot of bolstering about being a legendary hero, so Light didn't expect him to give up without more of a fight. A real hero never gives up and continues to fight against the odds, no matter how bad things get. That's what Elio, Gimra, and Warren did, and they never once called themselves legendary heroes. They were actual heroes, so they threw themselves at the enemy to protect Maya. Light wants to torment Kaido even more, so he gives him one more chance to fight him. He tells Kaido to pick up his sword, and declares that if he even just manages to give him the tiniest scratch, then Light will let him go. He tells the future legendary hero to go beyond his limits and show him what he's really made of. Light demands for him to prove that everything he said wasn't all talk, but Kaido has always been a coward deep down. He runs for his life, and he is sure that this has to be some kind of nightmare. Light is disgusted by the sight of this pitiful person, and he uses his solar ray attack to blast a hole into Kaido's leg. Kaido screams in agony, and Light determines that Maya was right. Kaido is no legendary hero, because all he does is run like a spineless coward. The fight is over, so Light's final message for Kaido is that he's a scumbag. Afterwards, Light apologizes to Warren and Gimra for not being able to save their lives. This area is infested with monsters, so Light decides to bury them down in the abyss. He can only hope that they are able to rest easy, knowing that he will make sure that Elio and Maya survive. Kaido and Yunak wonder what will happen to them, but Nemu silences them. Light reveals that he will be taking them to the abyss to answer all the questions he has. The two beg for mercy again, but Light just regrets not coming down on them harder when they first met outside of the dungeon. Light teleports everyone back to his castle, and the elves can't even comprehend what just happened. They were just in the dungeon a moment ago, and they have never even heard of an ability that can teleport people. Light reveals that they are now in the deepest part of the abyss, and the elves are horrified. They can't understand why they would be brought to the abyss, and they're even more shocked when Light reveals that this is where he lives. They're in disbelief because the abyss is the world's most challenging dungeon. Just trying to survive in here for a few days is said to be impossible, so they can't understand how Light and his warriors are able to live here. On top of that, they can't wrap their heads around how they got here all the way from the dungeon, but Nemo becomes infuriated about them questioning her master. Just then, Light's elite warriors welcome their master back home. They wonder who the strange creatures are that he brought with him, and Light explains that they're a pair of criminals. They conducted horrendous experiments and ended the lives of many people. Light normally would never think of letting them live, but they know something about the maestro, so he brought them back with him. The girls are quickly angered because these two evil elves are criminals that targeted humans. Ayuki says that they have sinned against her master, so they should suffer a life of agonizing despair. Ellie says that she will gladly use every taboo technique in her arsenal and force the scumbags to reveal all their information. Mei tells Light to just say the word and she will make them taste enough pain to regret the fact that they were ever born. Nazuna refuses to let anyone cause trouble for her master, so she tells the evildoers that they're in for a world of hurt. Kaido and Yanek are overwhelmed with fear, as they can only wonder who these terrifying people are. They are way beyond the both of them in terms of power, and they can't comprehend how humans like them can even exist. Light instructs his elite warriors to settle down because the elves will have to live until he learns everything they know. His warriors all promise to obey his orders, so Light takes care of some other business. He instructs Gold to heal Elio, so he and Nemo can lay Gimra and Warren to rest. Of course, the cowardly Yanak tries one last time to beg for his life. He tries to say that he was being controlled by Kaido, but Kaido says that this was all Yanak's idea. Light doesn't fall for their words for even a moment, as he reminds them about the terrible things they did. The two of them paraded around like gods, tormenting people while calling them worms. Light is sure that some of them must have begged for mercy just like they are now, and he is sure that their pleas were ignored. Light has no sympathy for the two of them and declares that they will get what they deserve. A while later, Maya wakes up, and Light explains that they managed to rescue Elio just in time. He has already been healed, and he is expected to make a full recovery. Maya desperately wonders what happened to Gimra and Warren, so Light must give her the bad news. He was not able to save them in time, and they lost their lives, so Maya begins to break down. Light gives her locks of their hair, and she can only thank Light for at least giving her something to remember them by. Light leaves her to mourn, and he wonders if this is what he gets for raising his level, solely in pursuit of revenge. Maya sobs as she misses her friends with all her heart, and Light realizes that he will never be able to shake the sound of her crying from his mind. The next day, the guild receptionist says that Light never fails to amaze them. He has completed another major accomplishment, so the guild can now bump him up straight to the C class. Light didn't reveal that he captured the adventurer killers, but the guild is satisfied because he did bring them some very valuable information. He told the guild that an elf and a dark elf were behind the string of murders. On top of that, the guild is elated because Light saved two potential victims. As for Elio and Maya, they have decided to quit adventuring and return to their hometown. Our heroes are sad to see them go, and the siblings thank our heroes for everything they have done to help them. Light is sure that they could find other adventurers to party up with, but Maya is terrified to keep going because of what happened. Most importantly, her friends were the ones that gave her the courage to become an adventurer in the first place, and it wouldn't be the same without them. Elio also says that it just wouldn't feel right to form a new party without Gimra and Warren. His only goal for now is to take them back home where they belong. As for attending the Magecraft Academy, Maya has decided to self-study instead. She doesn't want to be an amateur the next time they meet, so she vows to dedicate everything she has to becoming a proper mage. Maya begins to tear up as she really hopes that they will meet again, and Light promises that they will. Maya plans to hold him to this promise, and she says goodbye until then. Light is concerned about them as they leave, but Gold assures them that those two are very diligent. They are also pure of heart, so their future is bright. Light agrees with him and looks forward to when they meet again. Hopefully by then he will be able to reveal the truth and take them to visit Gimra and Warren's grave. Light returns to the Abyss, and the girls eagerly give him the results of their investigation. Ellie used forbidden magecraft to pry into every nook and cranny of Kaido and Yanak's minds. The girls then took all that information and reaffirmed it through various forms of interrogation. They put the two evil elves through a lot of pain and concluded that all the information was accurate. Their investigation revealed that a sub-maestro is a general term for those with blood relation to the maestro who are known to level up with relative ease. Furthermore, there seems to be a belief that the world could come to an end if the maestro is left unchecked. Ending the entire world is not some simple thing, so Light wonders if it's even possible if there's only a singular maestro. Light wants to hear the girls' opinion, so they explain that this detail came from a conversation that Kaido had with the captain of the White Knights. Unfortunately, his memory of it was quite fragmented, so they didn't learn more about it. Because of this, Light determines that their only lead now is the captain of the White Knights. Light wonders what state the evil elves are in, so Ellie shows him that they have been punished, far beyond anything they could have ever imagined. There is no use for them now, so Light declares that it's time to get rid of them. He uses a double super rare card called Dead Man's Banquet, and this releases a terrifying darkness. The evil elves have no life left, but this spell is so horrifyingly painful that they are forced to scream from the agony. Eventually, the two of them are completely consumed by this darkness, and their lives are ended. Light casually moves on, and simply asks for a status update on his plan. Ellie reveals that all necessary preparations have been made, and they're ready to begin as soon as Light gives the word. They can launch the revenge plan against Sasha the Elf at any time, and it will start with the capture of the White Knights. All of their members are apparently sub-maestros, so capturing them first should deal with any potential unknowns. Their vice captain also happens to be engaged to Sasha, which means that he could be useful as a hostage. Light is pleased with Ellie's report, so he declares that it's finally time to put the plan in motion. At the Elven Kingdom, Sasha enjoys the wonderful day. Even after all this time, she still enjoys telling stories about the day she betrayed Light. She has a huge smile on her face as she goes into great detail about that day. The look on Light's face after she shot his leg with an arrow was the most pathetic thing she has ever seen, and it brings her great joy every time she thinks about it. The vice captain of the White Knights completely agrees with her, as he points out that he's been part of operations to wipe out human villages. Humans always beg for their lives, with the most hideously pitiful looks on their faces just before their lives are ended. This guy's name is Mikkel, and he finds the death of humans very amusing. Sasha also thinks it's pretty hilarious because she didn't know that humans could get any uglier than they already are. Mikkel's delighted to see how much they agree with each other because not many ladies are on the same wavelength as a boorish knight like himself. He's really glad that he met Sasha, and she says that she's never been happier than the moment the two of them got engaged. Sasha's life has never felt so perfect, but she has no clue what's coming for her. Light is down in the abyss, wondering what their meeting will be like. Garo is pretty excited to see Light at first, but that was before he had to witness the terrifying might of Light's revenge. Light can now only wonder how far Sasha's face will sink with despair when she begs him not to end her life. A while later, Sasha thinks about how handsome her future husband is. Sasha's maid can't believe that she's really getting married, but Sasha points out that the ceremony is still a ways off. The maid warns her that she can't be so complacent because she might find herself getting lazy. She could start gaining weight to the point that she won't be able to fit in her wedding dress, or some other unspeakable disaster could occur. Sasha tells the maid not to jinx her, but the carriage comes to an abrupt stop. A human collapsed in front of them, and he dropped a bunch of vegetables. This human is a slave, and an elf instructs him to pick up everything he just dropped. The maid is disgusted by the human, as she can only wonder how they fail at the simplest of jobs. She couldn't agree more, as she states that humans are good for absolutely nothing. Just then, Sasha screams in shock as she spots someone in the distance. She rushes out of the carriage while assuring herself that her eyes must be playing tricks on her. Sasha declares that it couldn't possibly be Light, and it absolutely has to be someone else. She desperately chases after this person because she is certain that there's no way that Light could have survived. Her frantic chase only leads her to a dead end, and there are no places to hide in this area. She was certain that she saw someone, but she's now questioning if her eyes really were playing tricks on her. A wave of relief washes over her as she determines that it couldn't have been Light, but she is horrified when she turns around. A note informs her that he will be waiting at the tower, and it is signed by Light. Sasha screams in terror as she collapses to the ground, and her maid rushes to her side. Sasha can barely even think straight, and she simply says that he's going to ruin everything. Her entire life is in danger of falling apart because ending Light's life is what opened the door for her. It led to her being taken in by a very high-profile family, and it was the reason her entire life changed. Her mansion, her reward money, and even her engagement to Mikkel, she's at risk of losing it all. Light watches her fall apart nearby, and he tells Ellie that the time is finally at hand. Ellie then tells Light to leave everything to her. Sasha's about to learn the hard way that she picked the wrong person to betray and ridicule. Ellie vows to make sure it's seared into every fiber of Sasha's being by inflicting so much pain and suffering. Light couldn't be more pleased to hear this, and he declares that it's time for Operation Revenge on Sasha to begin. Back at the castle, the White Knights all laugh and enjoy themselves, but we see just how evil they are. The reason they're enjoying themselves so much is because they're tormenting a human. They are throwing blades at the human slave and rewarding themselves points when they land a hit. They even have rules in place for their little game, like if the human's life comes to an end, then they lose. The knight named Seraph presses up against a human slave, but the other knights don't like his behavior at all. Seraph turns to the captain as he brings up the self-proclaimed hero, Kaido. Seraph brings up how Kaido teamed up with the Dark Elf to steal a legendary sword from the treasury, and to make things worse he got a bounty put on his head for taking people's lives. Then some human embarrassed him by defeating him in battle, and now he's nowhere to be found. It's an absolute riot to Seraph, but apparently the big shots are going to make the White Knights clean up his mess. The knight named Muzan takes a stand as he doesn't like what Seraph is saying. Muzan points out that it's only natural that they take responsibility for problems caused by a former member of the knighthood. Seraph thinks that his former comrade is being too uptight, as he would rather stay nice and comfy at home. The other knights only get louder as they celebrate for striking the human again with their blade. Seraph has had enough of them ruining the mood with their little game, so he just tells them to end the human's life already. The young knights remind him that this human is their slave, so they can do whatever they want with him. They then tease Seraph for his terrible taste in women, because he is a freak that only likes to fondle humans. Muzan is forced to stop their bickering, as he reminds them that they are white knights. He declares that humans are weak creatures, so keeping one as a short-term pet is fine. However, at the end of the day, what the humans need is a blessing of mercy at the ends of their blades. Muzan truly believes that he's doing the humans a service, because for the humans, life is little more than a painful slog. That is why it's up to them to grant humans a quick and beautiful death. Muzan wishes that the others would be as merciful as him, but Seraph thinks differently. He tells Muzan to keep preaching, because one day all his talk will come back to bite him. The others don't want to hear it from Muzan either, as they all declare that they will never change. Just then, the captain shows his terrifying command over everyone as he silences them. This split second of anger was enough to terrify the knights to their core, and even a bird loses its life from the captain's presence. He instructs Naya and Kaya to stop tormenting the slave because it will affect their skills on the battlefield. He then tells Muzan to drop his judgmental mindset before it conflicts with his duty as a knight. Then he simply says Seraph's name, and Seraph already knows what to do. Seraph eliminates the slave, and the captain instructs the young knights to dispose of the body. The captain then reminds Muzan that he has a mission to complete. Seraph sends the human girl to his room to wait for him, so that only leaves him and the captain. The captain warns Seraph to keep his flings with humans to a minimum, and Seraph wonders if it's because he's worried about him polluting their pure elven blood. The captain simply explains that history shows that elves are the race that has incorporated the most maestro blood. Furthermore, the White Knights are comprised solely of sub-maestros who have awakened the power flowing in that blood. Seraph acknowledges this, but he points out that all the knights aside from Muzan have hit their level cap. He's surprised though when the captain says that that's exactly his point. The world hasn't seen a new maestro for several millennia. That is why he doesn't want Seraph to pollute blood that is becoming increasingly hard to come by. Seraph assures the captain that he would never make a half-breed, and what he does with humans is just a hobby of his. He likes giving the human girls hope that they might survive under his watch, and he enjoys watching them desperately try to keep him from getting bored of them. Seraph laughs like an absolute maniac, and even the other knights can't believe how disgusting he is. Seraph does admit that the novelty of this recent girl is starting to wear off, so he has decided to end her life soon. Seraph's little speech only gets worse, as he says that the real thrill comes from stabbing them in the back. Seraph thinks that the captain should give it a try, but the captain passes. He explains that royal orders regarding Kaido's mess will come soon, so they need to prepare. Kaido was a lousy member of the knighthood, but he was still a member, so they have a duty to settle things. This can't happen again, so the captain declares that anyone who dares dirty the name of their queen must pay for it dearly. That night, Sasha sleeps peacefully, but she's awakened by a disturbance. Just outside the Elven Kingdom, we see that a giant building has just been teleported. Ellie appears at the top of the building, and she declares that the stage has finally been set. Sasha sees this building in the distance, and she can only wonder what this giant tower is. She then remembers the note she found earlier, and she wonders if that is where Light is waiting for her. Elsewhere, we see that some human slaves are being transported. The driver is horrified because there aren't supposed to be monsters in this area, but a terrifying one has appeared. The driver runs for his life, abandoning the slaves and leaving them at the mercy of the beast. At a bar inside the kingdom, some customers are really upset because the bar is out of stock. The bartender explains that monsters have shown up along the roads and all deliveries have been cut off. People are saying that it's because of the giant tower that appeared out of nowhere, but no one knows for sure. The Queen's forces are investigating now, but they are short-handed. This explains why they posted a huge reward just for information, but all the adventurers refuse to get anywhere near the mysterious tower. Light and his warriors see the reward, and Light is pleased to see that his tower is causing quite a buzz. Nearby, some elves see Nemu, and they say that she's almost too hot to be a human. These pervs call out to her and ask Nemu if she wants to party with them. They explain that they're both over level 150, and they proclaim that she should consider herself lucky to hang out with elves like them. They instruct her to say goodbye to the golden eyesore and to the little nerd because they would hate to see a girl like her wasted on some losers. Nemu immediately silences these dorks because Light is the only person she needs. She then says that losers like these perverted elves are not worth her time. Light calmly explains that Nemu is an irreplaceable member of his group, and Nemu is amazed by his kind words. One of the elves is insulted after being talked down to by a human, so he goes in to attack our hero. Unfortunately for him, Light doesn't even have to move an inch, and he uses a thunder arrow to give the guy a warning. Everyone watching is absolutely stunned because he just used a spell without an incantation, and they all realize who this is. Light's alias named Dark is becoming pretty famous, and he is known as the leader of the Black Motley Party. The elf is absolutely horrified as his life flashes before his eyes, but Light determines that it's time to leave. Everyone already knows about the incredible accomplishments of the Black Motley, so they are sure that they will end up claiming the whole bounty for this new job. Everything is going exactly as planned, as Light explains that this little altercation will cause the word of them being here to spread. It's time for the next step, and Light hopes that things are going just as well for Ayuki and the others. Back in the forest, some elves instruct a slave to hurry up and keep moving. They're trying to get some information about the tower so they can get the reward money, but something isn't adding up for one of them. He's terrified, and he wonders how it's possible for high-level monsters to get scared and wander so far from where they came from. The only answer is that there must be something really terrifying further in the forest. The leader tells them to stop being worried because he has a plan. In the worst case scenario, they will just use the human as bait so they can make their escape. This will allow them to at least get some information while the monsters feed on her. The leader's henchmen are amazed by him because he's a ruthless genius. The leader then declares that human brats never sell for much, so they're best used as fodder. Unfortunately, the girl collapses from exhaustion, so the elf threatens her to keep moving. He's disgusted as he says that humans always try to sneak in little breaks like that, and they're beyond useless. Just then, the elf is horrified to realize that a monster has somehow appeared above him. He has no time to react, however, and the others can only watch in terror as he is consumed. The terrifying beast shows no mercy at all, and it completely devours the group of elves. The girl is the last savior, and she shakes in fear as the beast approaches her. The beast simply walks away, however, and the girl can only wonder why it didn't eat her. Some thugs laugh nearby and say that they did not expect to make a big score out here in the forest. The slave girl can't believe her terrible luck because she was just spared, but now the nightmare will just continue. Of course, she's shocked when the thugs pour some water on her to clean her up a bit because they don't want her to look dirty and neglected. The water was actually a healing potion, so the girl can only wonder why they healed her. Things only become more strange as the guys take turns deciding how they will help her. One offers to make her some shoes, and another says that he will make a walking stick for her. The guys send a report back to their commander, and they announce that they have rescued another slave. This operation has been going on for a while now, as the guy explains that he will report back after they bring the girl to the safe haven, like usual. Back at the tower, we see that their commander is Ayuki, and she's pleased to see that everything's going according to plan. Ellie's impressed by her because she's actually the one controlling the monsters. It's not an easy thing to do at all, but Ayuki has even just recently learned to control multiple monsters at the same time. Ellie has several questions about how things are going, but Ayuki once again just speaks in meows. She has a very positive tone when saying meow over and over again, so Ellie assumes that things are going well. Ellie, however, can't help but question some things. Light ordered for them to eliminate anyone that might interfere with their plan. That could lead to some confusion because they might end up hurting an innocent person. Ellie concludes that this is all meant to be a test of their moral standards and emotional intelligence. Light is giving them free rein to decide who to eliminate, but Ellie fears that someone might misjudge right from wrong. She wonders if she should bring this issue up to Light, but she's surprised when Ayuki drops the cat talk to speak directly to Ellie. Ayuki becomes deadly serious, and she tells Ellie to stop concerning herself. Ellie thinks that they should always try to understand Light's intentions to serve him in the best way possible, but Ayuki thinks very differently. She declares that they don't have to be anything more than what their Master Light expects them to be. Ayuki simply reminds Ellie that they live and fight for their Master Light. They soothe him, revere him, wait upon him, love him, become his sword and shield, and give their lives for him. All they ever need to think about is being useful to him. Ayuki declares that anything beyond that is irrelevant. Ellie can't comprehend how Ayuki can simply be a pet like that, but Ayuki can't comprehend Ellie either. Just seeing Ellie try to make sense of the will of their almighty god makes Ayuki want to end her life right at this moment. Ellie doesn't take her threat lightly, as she wonders if Ayuki really thinks that she stands a chance against her. The powerful Ayuki doesn't back down for even a moment, as she points out that they can easily find out who is stronger between them. She even says that it would make a good empirical study on what happens when two people of their level clash to the death. Tensions rise dramatically as Ellie says that Ayuki has a poor taste in jokes. Ayuki makes it very clear, however, that this isn't a joke. She declares that if Ellie refuses to abide by Light's wishes, then she will have no choice but to end Ellie's life right now. The tension between them reaches its absolute peak as the slightest movement from either of them will set off a full-scale battle, the likes of which the world has never seen. Luckily, they're interrupted by another report from Ayuki's men. They have delivered the girl to the safe haven, and she is now with the others they rescued. The guys tell the girl to take care of herself, and she thanks them for everything. Now that things have calmed down, and the girl was delivered safely, Ellie realizes that she had no reason to worry. The girl wasn't hurt for getting involved, and she was wrong to question things. Ellie does appreciate the conversation they had, however, because it gave her a peek into the way Ayuki thinks. In the forest, the guys show that they're actually really good people. They're simply disgusted because the elves are so heartless, and they use humans as fodder. One of the guys tries to make sense of it, but another points out that all the other races have just lost their moral fiber. Their leader has had enough of the chit-chat, however, so he just tells his men to be ready for when they have to help someone else. Back in the castle, Sasha racks her brain trying to think about what she should do. There are monsters over level 1000 around the tower, so it will be impossible for her to reach it on her own. To make things worse, if she asks for help from the White Knights, then they will figure out that Light is still alive. Sasha's determined to get to the bottom of this herself, so she must find a way into the tower, no matter what. That way, she can put the final nail in the coffin of the stupid little brat that is threatening to ruin her life. Sasha then shows that she's still completely evil, as she tells Light to just wait till she finds him. The next morning, some bureaucrats discuss what must be done about the tower. The enemy's goal and strength are unknown, so some of them think that they should send in the White Knights immediately. Dispatching their most elite warriors to squash the threat before any harm comes to the public is the most effective course of action. The captain of the knights, named Hardy, respects the Chancellor's dedication to protecting the people, and the Chancellor is pleased to hear this. Hardy interrupts him, however, and he questions if the Chancellor is of sound mind right now. They lack any sort of detailed knowledge of the enemy, yet the Chancellor wants to dispatch the White Knights. Hardy is incredibly insulted as he explains that this is the same as using a sacred blade to dig a hole in the dirt. This enemy could end up being no problem at all, so Hardy argues that a dull knife is more suited to do the job. This is not the first time that these two powerful men have butt heads, so the other bureaucrats realize that there's only one person that can stop their argument. That person is the queen herself, and she finally says something. She declares that she's inclined to agree with the captain of the knights in this matter. Her name is Lif, and she reminds everyone that she's the ruler of the Elven Kingdom. She decides to side with Hardy completely, and she instructs the bureaucrats to offer even more reward money. This way, the monarchy and its people can unite to gather intelligence on the mysterious giant tower. The issue is settled, but the Chancellor angrily calls Hardy a lapdog. Hardy then meets with Lif, and he thanks her for taking his side. Because of her, he won't have to waste his men on a foolish plan concocted by some amateur. Hardy says that the emergence of the giant tower and the urgency the Chancellor has to do something about it is nothing more than another move in his game of politics. Lif simply laughs as she feels really bad for the Chancellor. Hardy seems to be really irritated by him, and nothing's worse than being on his bad side. It turns out that Lif is actually Hardy's mother, and he tells her that this is no laughing matter. He's certain that the Chancellor is actually biding his time for an opportunity to abolish the monarchy. Lif is certain that he won't pose a threat, however, because Hardy will always be around to protect her. The real problem they have is the mysterious tower. It serves as the first domino in a line that threatens to topple her empire, and then will be even more of a problem to deal with. Hardy is shocked to hear her speak this way, because it sounds like she's talking about something very dangerous. Hardy fears that she's referring to the second coming of something called the Archfiend. Lif is confident that if the Archfiend really has appeared, it would be vanquished immediately through the power of the 8-Nation Alliance. However, it will give rise to something else. A hero who can only be born from the human race. Lif refuses to let this happen, so she just hopes that they can make the humans go extinct before then. To make things worse, Lif says that there's a good chance that such a hero would also be a maestro. This means that if that day ever comes, they will either have to eliminate the hero or win them over. Because if they don't do those things, this hero will surely annihilate their entire race. All this talk reminds Hardy that a potential maestro popped up a while ago. Lif remembers this as well, but she points out that that human turned out to be a dud, and he was eliminated. Hardy wishes that he was there, so he could have eliminated the pathetic human himself, but Lif reminds him that grunt work like that is beneath him. Hardy was simply speaking his mind because he feels very strongly about his beliefs. He declares that humans are pests that bring disaster to the world and they have no right to live. Hardy wishes that he could have been there to prove that by showing the human the sharp end of his sword. Near the tower, a bunch of people are told to line up if they want to apply for the tower scouting request. Light and his warriors walk by this camp that was created to investigate the tower, and Light is impressed. It has a guild branch, item shops, and even some taverns. People watching whisper about them being the Black Motley, and they're upset because everyone knows that they're here for the job. Gold remembers these two elves from the other day, and he points out that they're staring daggers at them. Nemu simply calls them losers, and she wonders if she went too hard at them. Just then, we see that Sasha's there as well, and she's horrified after recognizing Light's voice. She calls out to the human child, and Nemu prepares herself. Light recognizes her voice as well, and he tells the others that it's Sasha. Light's warriors are filled with rage as they desperately want to get revenge for what Sasha did to their master, but Light tells them to calm down. Light wants to follow his plan, and this is not the place to confront Sasha. Sasha demands to see his face, so Light turns to her and acts like he doesn't know who she is. Sasha instructs him to remove his ridiculous mask so she can see his face, but Nemu declares that her Lord Dark doesn't take orders from anyone. Dark calmly explains that he wears this mask to hide the awful burns on his face, and it's not something he likes to show people. Sasha couldn't care less about any of this, as she desperately needs to find Light. She demands for him to take his mask off again, and this time she slaps the mask off of his face. Thanks for watching my recap. Make sure to like the video.